Lotus. To ask about a refill with your prescriptions, press 1.
Before we get into anything, I do have a TCG Player link again. It's back, so if you want to order any of these cards on this list that you see today, use my TCG Player affiliate link. It costs nothing on your end, it just helps me out. So if you don't know how these normally work, you're going to get a ton of obscure cards made up of a bunch of previous videos that I have uploaded. And at the beginning of these compilation style videos, I like to give you guys some fresh new stuff. So if you've maybe seen all those other videos, you can still get something off the beginning of these videos. The beginning of this obscure card compilation is a little bit different than we normally do. These are all Patreon members who have submitted some of their favorite obscure cards. So I thought I would highlight some of those at the beginning of this, and then we can rip off on however much time this video ends up being. So up first, Wooden Dread suggests that we check out Fog Patch, which is ran in a little over 1,500 decks. It's 1 and a green for an instant. Play Fog Patch only during the Declare Blockers step. Attacking creatures become blocked. Now this one's interesting because for all intents and purposes, it is just a worse fog, but it technically does work with like Trample. So if you swing with like, or if somebody swings with like a 10-10 Trampler and you play this, that 10-10 Trampler is technically blocked, but since it has Trample, the 10 damage will still go through. Where does that become useful? I'm really not sure. One deck does come to mind, General Marholt, where whenever your stuff gets blocked, that thing gets +3/+3. If you run a bunch of Tramplers in that deck, you could run this as like a 2-drop, buff your whole board with a +3/+3 because they're all technically getting blocked. If they have Trample, they're getting a +3/+3 buff and getting all their damage through because they're blocked by 0 damage, technically. That would actually be kind of neat. Outside of that, though, let me know if you guys thought of anything. Wheelmaster recommends that we check out Mortuary, which is in a little over 5,000 decks. This 3 and a black enchantment has whenever a creature is put into your graveyard from play, put that creature on top of your library. Yeah, this card's sick. I think we've checked this out before. Whether I can't remember if it was in an obscure list or if it was on the daily card highlights, but it has been a hot second since we've looked at it. Great card. If you're running like a mid-rangey deck where you're running like a bunch of like 3, 4, 5 drops that you want to keep cycling in and out of play and getting their powerful effects even if they die, I could see this being pretty good in that. Also, I really like this in Braids, the one where you get to like sack a different thing and then each opponent has to sack that same thing or you get to draw a card, because you could just start sacking creatures and really have no downside. Actually, you could probably get upside by sacking a Ravenous Chupacabra. All of you sack something. Oh, you can't? I'm going to draw and put my Ravenous back on top of my deck. My turn. The next 3 cards come in from King of Dream. He was prolific with the suggestions this week. First, he recommends Sarah's Blessing. In a little under 7k decks, for 1 and a white, we get an enchantment. Creatures you control have Vigilance. Again, we play Casual Commander around here. So if you're just not wanting your creatures to get tapped, this will probably slot into a deck and work fine. You're in the Arcades deck. You're just bashing with walls for a ton of damage and drawing a bunch of cards. Why don't those walls just like not tap to attack? Also, a little spice, like a little Sunblast Angel. None of your stuff ever taps. The opponent's stuff, if they ever want to swing, it's got to tap. You drop Sunblast, you blow up all your opponent's tap stuff. Some good, fun, fair Christian magic right here, and you can't go wrong with that. He also recommends Cruel Entertainment, which is ran in a little over 5k decks. This 6 and a black sorcery has choose target player and another target player. The first player controls the second player during the second player's turn, and the second player controls the first player during that player's turn. If you're in the deck where you're spell slinging like some mnemonic deluges out, you're playing some dig through times, you're trying to play those big boy instants and sorceries, and you're looking for a win con one, this one's just kind of fun. I can also maybe see this in like a goad deck because it just maybe not necessarily gameplay wise, but it fits the theme of like, no, you guys do it. I don't wanna. And King of Dreams rounds out his final suggestion with Suppress. Ran in 354 decks, this 2 and a black sorcery has target player removes all cards in his or her hand from the game face down. At the end of that player's next turn, that player returns those cards to his or her hand. It's like a weird black silence. You're forcing the controlled players or the players at the table with interaction to use your interaction the second you play this card. You play this on somebody, the control player, like the Esper control deck at the table, let's say, and that person goes, well, I have to use my counterspell on this thing if I want to play anything else this turn, and I have to remove whatever I want to remove right now before I'm unable to play my spells anymore until it comes back to my turn. So you're forcing a control player to play aggressively, which is not what the deck's trying to do, which is actually really nice. And if your deck's not very interactive, this is especially good because then you can just feel safe for a turn getting your thing to fire off. And again, if you're in a deck where the thing firing off is you winning the game, like if you're in like Nekasar, like where it's like, hey, if I can get this Nekasar and I can get this damage engine and I can get the wheel to go off, I can win this turn. Drop a suppression. because then they have to do everything they want to do right there, and you won't have to waste any of your mana on follow-up stuff if they do end up getting rid of your Nekasar or your engine or something like that. So very good card. I actually like this one a lot. Coming in next, Jonathan Magewick recommends Felonite Monk in 437 decks. This 2/2 green 1/2 has tap, sacrifice a green creature to turn a target land into a basic forest. So does it shut off powerful lands, or are you using this to like turn on forest walk creatures or cards that like care about the number of forest in play or something like that? Definitely an interesting card. I think this is another one that I think we have talked about on the channel before. I probably talked about it as if it could just shut off lands, which it still might be able to. I'm just not 100% sure. Under the interesting notes and rules in Scryfall, it says nothing about it. It just says will not add or remove the super type snow to or from a land. Because if it does work that way, this could be useful in Casual Commander for just turning off like Mazes of Iths or Mystifying Mazes, or just, is there another maze that you could turn off? Billy Maze, you could turn him off. Or you could just like shut down that man land that they keep pumping counters onto if it works that way. Because that thing's getting too big, and no mother don't like no big fat ass daughter. And then finally we've got Kita Arias, I probably butchered that last name, who recommends Quest for the Holy Relic, which is ran in a little over 3,000 decks. This 1 white enchantment has, whenever you cast a creature spell, you may put a quest counter on Quest for the Holy Relic, remove 5 quest counters from it, search your library for an equipment card, put it onto the battlefield, and attach it to a creature you control. This feels pretty good. This doesn't feel that hard to do. There's a lot of like cheap, like just on the screen right now, Cole Forge Master, Kembaka Regent, Moira Brown Guide Author. Like there's a lot of like 2 and 3 drop stuff, creatures that you can just play to get counters on this thing pretty quickly. There's Proliferate now, like if you have a metastatic Evangel. There you go. And then past that, when you crack it, it's like, hey, you want a Colossus Hammer for free? So I hope you guys that have already seen the videos that are going to be following this as the compilation got a little something out of this video. And for all you guys that have not watched the channel, you're new to the channel, there's going to be a ton of obscure cards on this list for you to check out and put into your deck. So I hope this is a good watch for you. I have another like 2-hour video of obscure cards. So if you want to check that out, it's over on the channel. I'll leave a link down to that in the description. You can check that out after this one. Like I said, I do have a TCG affiliate link again. So if you guys want to order any of these cards off TCG Player that we talk about today, you could use the TCG Player link down below. Enjoy the rest of the video. We'll be back to business as usual on Friday. Up first, we've got Run for Your Lives, which is ran in 6,685 decks for 1 red and 1 blue at instant speed. Up to 2 target creatures each gain haste until end of turn. They can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with haste, and it has escape, 2 a blue and a red, exile 4 cards from your graveyard. I feel like this is not bad, okay? And I know some of you guys could be like, just run other blockable effects. Run that. Run this. Why not run this? Why not run this? Why not? Why not? Because you gotta live a little, buddy. I actually really like this if you're in like a Tamir deck, where you got like a bunch of big Tamir baddies you're trying to bash face with. Like Riku of 2 Reflections might dig this. Make a couple of the big boys you've copied unblockable. Be able to play this again to make them unblockable. Also be able to copy this to make more of your big boys unblockable with Riku. That's pretty cool. All in all, I think a pretty decent card. Again, Timir, any kind of like Timmy strategy that you have is it slotted into, which let's be honest, that's gonna be Tamir. Or if you have a commander that you want like guaranteed combat damage being dealt and you just need additional unblockable effects like Obeka, Splitter of Seconds, that could be pretty good. This just delivers unblockable for Obeka plus another creature you control. I like that a lot. My favorite use of this though is if you're in a goad list. This doesn't say your creatures, it's just 2 target creatures. So you can make 2 of your opponent's creatures that you have goaded unblockable, and you could probably take out players using this strategically enough. And with the escape, people are going to know you could do that again. They're going to be super afraid of this card. I actually think it's really decent. Especially over 6K decks, I think it definitely needs to be talked about. Speaking of cards that need talked about, Spike Shot Elder. Are you seriously telling me this is in 3,083 decks? This is a classic card, near and dear to my heart. I remember playing the pre-release for this set when it came out. I remember really, really liking this card, thinking it was really strong. I forgot about it. Came up on Scryfall. I actually really like this thing. For 1 and 2 red, we get a 1/1. We can pay 1 and 2 red to deal its power to any target. I don't know about you. With all the ways to proliferate that have been introduced in this game, this seems incredible because you can like throw a 1/1 counter on this guy and then just absolutely make it go sky high in its power. Like Shishiru the Shattered Blade. Oh man, that's really good in here. Throw one of your auras on this guy. Throw one of your equipments on this guy. Oh, guess what? Anything that's modified gets 1/1 counters during your turn. That seems like Spike Shot could be a game-ending card in that style of deck. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Plus, it's a goblin. Like, there's tons of goblin decks that run like Coat of Arms in them. Throw this in there. You'll have a giant goblin that can just deal giant goblin damage to people's faces. Up next, we've got Herbal Poultice, which I think in a couple of niche case scenarios is actually really useful. It's ran in 7,032 decks. It is a 0-drop artifact that you can pay 3, tap it, crack it to regenerate target creature. Where I think this is really good, if you're in a storm deck where you're trying to play as many spells as possible and then follow that up with a storm spell to, win the game or get some really big value, I think this is really good because it costs 0, so it'll add to your storm count for free, and then provides protection for any of your important storm creatures, which a lot of those decks, the commander's really important, because it will be firing off along with your storm count thing going off. So this provides protection for your commander as well as adding to your storm count for free. I think that's actually pretty decent. Not bad. Maybe even something like Osgear to protect Osgear, get it back, and then have 2 more pieces of protection. I don't know. I think the card's actually pretty decent. Let's talk about another old school classic that's near and dear to my heart because I just have really fond memories of my cousin being really into like this era of vampires. Markov Blademaster. This thing's really good, actually. It's ran in 4,541 decks, which I think is criminal, being a 1 and 2 red double strike 1/1 that will get a 1/1 counter when it deals combat damage. Because it's got double strike, so you hit someone once with this thing, first double strike happens, it gets a 1/1 counter. Next double strike happens, they get another 1/1 counter. You end having a 3/3 double strike, and that person just took 3 damage, and then next turn you'll have a 4/4, then a 5/5 double strike. Not to even mention throwing this into like counter-centric decks, like if you're in an Animar deck where you've got stuff like all will be 1 in there, this guy will be getting tons of counters in there and actually become a serious threat, especially if you've got lands like Rogue's Passage where you can give this card unblockable. I think this guy is, in casual commander, this is actually pretty good. I think this actually is kind of a haymaker. Not to even mention if you're in like a Boros or like a Mardu list, you then have access to stuff like Alesha Who Smiles at Death or like Sun Titan to get back this little thing that becomes a huge threat later on. I don't know. I like this card. Again, much like all the cards on this list, I'm not 100%. I do think it's pretty good. Good enough to mention. Now, one of the weirdest picks for the list, we've got Gleam of Resistance. This comes in at 634 decks, and you know what? Obviously, there's a reason why, but I do think, again, in more of a casual play group, this is not a terrible card in certain decks. For 4 and a white at instant speed, creatures you control get +1/+2 until end of turn, and you can untap those creatures. It's also got basic land cycling for 1 and a white. So if you draw this early, you can just basic land cycle it to make sure you hit your 3rd or 4th land drop. But if you're drawing it late game, you can use it as a form of protection, giving 1/2 if you need it combat wise. Maybe on an attack you made or a block you're about to do. But where I think this is really good is if you're running a bunch of creatures that have like tap abilities, like if you're in a Rune the Hidden Realm where you have other stuff like the Mistveil Kithkin or something like that, I can't remember what it's called, with tap abilities to blink. Gleam isn't that bad just because you like now can swing with all those, play Gleam, untap all your things, give them +1/+2. I know there's plenty of cheaper ways to untap your full board at instant speed, but they don't have basic land cycling built into them, which I don't necessarily think makes this better or worse than any other cards. I do think it makes it worth mentioning. So there it is. Cleaver Riot is a 4 and a red sorcery that gives all your creatures double strike until end of turn. Again, if you're in a more casual play group, this could be a win con in like a token deck, maybe a Krenko deck, because giving your whole board double strike, that's nuts. Not to even mention if you have a lot of deals combat triggers like the Markov Blademaster we were talking about. Again, if you're on more of a budget and you like using more obscure cards, I think this is a great option. Let's move on to Flamekin Harbinger, and I know what you're typing already. Man, is this just an obscure red card list? No, there was an artifact. There's been a multicolor. All right, we should bring back stoning. Flamekin Harbinger is 1 red for a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, you search your library for an elemental card and put it on the top of your library. This card's ran in 9,833 decks, which, yeah, I think it should be ran in more, though, because elementals, I don't know if you know this, a lot of really strong stuff that's ran in a lot of decks are elementals. Yarok, elemental. So if you're in like an ETB deck that runs that, you can tutor him up. Omnath, elemental. Muldrotha, elemental. Muldrifter, Shriekmaw, Avenger of Zendikar, elemental. Bane of Progress, elemental. Nyx Bloom Ancient, elemental. It's all elemental. I don't know. I feel like if you looked through a couple of your decks, you might find that you run some elementals you really like seeing in your games, and you could throw this Flamekin in there to see it more. Let's move on and talk about one with the Kami. This enchantment aura. Whoa, my phone went all over the place. 1 moment. Hold on to your seats, okay? I don't want you falling over from this shock, okay? This card comes in at 13,147 decks. That's right, we have officially bumped up what's considered an obscure card. Why? Because scrolling through Scryfall, organized by EDH Rec Rank, we're really nearing in on the end of what to talk about on the under 10K field, as far as like casual and somewhat high power level casual decks are concerned. So we're bumping it up to 15k, okay? If it's in 15k or under decks, it can now be submitted for this list because there's a ton of stuff that came in under 15k that I have never ever seen or played with, and if I haven't never seen or played with it and I've looked through Scryfall almost every day of my life for the last 2 years, it's probably safe to say that people that are even really into the game might not have seen them either. One with the Kami is gross. 3 and a green for an aura with flash, throw it on a creature, whenever that creature or another modified creature you control dies, make a 1/1 spirit for its power. Shijiro, again, this is disgusting in there. Holy. Stang Echo Warrior, make another copy of this thing, and then Stang's gonna leave, and then you get your thing, and you do the thing, and the spell does... This is such a good card. It really pisses me off. This genuinely makes me pissed that Arna doesn't have green in her color identity, because this would be such a bop in Arna, dude. Moving on, the card I most recommend you skipping, because I do not want to see this across from me ever. Let's talk about Mana Maze. For 1 in a blue, we get an enchantment. Players cannot cast spells that share a color with the last spell cast this turn. So if you cast a white spell, you can't follow it up with another white spell. You got to switch it up. Blue spell, green spell, black spell, red spell. No white spells. I said no white spell. Which makes this really, really good in artifact decks. If I'm not mistaken, they don't have a color, so this doesn't even affect it. So if you're in like an Urza deck, I don't understand why this isn't played a shit ton, for one. Or if you're just in a douchey ass stacks deck, dude, go for it. Either way, shocks me that this is in 2,288 decks. How is that possible? It must have fallen through the cracks or something. I honestly am not sure. Card's gross. Also, you can do bullshit like if you're versing the mono blue player, play an opt at the beginning of their turn so they cannot play anything for the rest of their turn because the last spell was a blue spell unless they mix it up with like an artifact. White player, play a Path to Exile at the beginning of their turn. Gross. How am I the one discovering this gnarly of a card, dude? Hey guys, I got something to admit. It is an obscure red card list, I'm sorry. We've got Visions of Phyrexia coming up. I actually think this is pretty good. For 2 and 2 red, we get an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play it at the end of your turn. At the end of your turn, if you didn't play the card, exile it and create a tapped Power Stone. Again, if you're in an artifact-themed deck, I like this because you're going to be getting free card draw and free mana ramp because you're in an artifact deck. Power Stones, which is pretty good, but also in like an exile based deck, like if you're in Prosper Tombbound, this is just a second Prosper that's firing off and then gets built-in bonuses of being able to make power tokens, which can still be used to like activate abilities. So if you've got abilities in your deck to activate, you can still use it that way. Obviously the Magic community has seen the value in this card. It's ran in 14,884 decks, so just below our line now, and it's a card I wanted to bring up to you guys because one, the amount of decks it was in kind of shocked me a little bit, and then rereading it I was like, I could see the vision. I think it's pretty good. Again, popped into my head. Osgear. This is really good in Osgear. You're getting free card draw, and you're getting free Power Stones that you can dump into Osgear to remake your artifacts that you can then use the Power Stones to activate your artifacts. Our next card is Sparring Regimen, which comes in at 2,778 decks. For 2 and a white, we get an enchantment. When Sparring Regimen enters the battlefield, we learn, which means we can get a lesson card from Exile the game, except that doesn't work in Commander. What we do instead is we draw a card, discard a card. So we get a built-in looting effect on a white card, which I think is like some weird tech that could be of use in some decks. But it's also got whenever we attack, put a 1/1 counter on target creature, untap it, which I think is pretty good. Of course, there's stuff like Reconnaissance where you're able to just untap stuff that didn't make it through or that gets blocked, which if that's the only reason you're using it, that card's way better. But this one does offer a 1/1 counter to that creature, so something like Arna might be able to use this because now we're giving Arna 1/1 counters and pseudo vigilance, and on a flying lifelinker, that's pretty good. Plus in that deck, putting 1/1 counters on any given creature that's attacking and untapping it is gonna be good with Arna. Plus draw a card, discard a card. I think that's pretty unique on a white card. Oh, sorry, I was mistaken. It's discard a card, then draw a card. This also works with stuff like Ishin, who doubles attack triggers. This is an attack trigger. Whenever you attack, do this, so you'll get 2 of these on your turn with Ishin. That's also not bad. Just a super interesting card. I remember seeing a ton of these at the Strixhaven pre-release. Rereading it, I think it's pretty decent, so maybe try it out. So moving on to Cerebral Vortex, I actually think this is an incredibly, one, pretty decent form of card draw, and 2, could seriously like do work on the right, at the right table. For 1, a blue and a red, instant speed, target player draws 2 cards, then Cerebral Vortex deals damage to that player equal to the number of cards they drew this turn. So if someone's popping off on like a mean combo, drawing a ton of cards, you can just wait, oh, you drew 40? I'm gonna throw a Cerebral into there just to let that sit there. I'll let that sit there. Even if someone drew like 7 cards in a turn and then you drop this, they take 9 damage to the dome. That's pretty good. I actually really, really like this from way back. This is a deep cut on the channel. The Parnassi group plug deck, where you run all the group hug stuff, but it's got built-in backsides, where it's got built-in backshots, but it's got built-in downsides. So this would be perfect. You're like offering someone card draw, but they'll lose damage equal to the amount of cards they drew. If this isn't already in that Parnassi deck list, I can barely remember that deck list. It should be. Moving on to my personal favorite card of this list, we've got Rampart Architect. For 3 and a green, we get a 3/4. Whenever this creature enters the battlefield or attacks, we get a 1/3 white wall with Defender. Love that. So I absolutely am obsessed with Titan abilities. If they can ETB and attack and trigger something, I'm all for that. The fact that it's a mid-range card, 4-drop, 3/4 does that. Love that. And we're not even done. Whenever a creature with Defender you control dies, you get to Rampant Growth. You just search for a basic land and put it into play tapped. So all these walls that you're just blocking and blocking and blocking with are mana ramping you, as well as being blockers, as well as triggering any creature ETBs you got, as well as being tokens to interact with any populate or token doubling effects you got. Nutter card. Did I mention that it's ran in 10,528 decks? That's absolutely criminal. Get this in a ton more decks. Absolute unit of a card. Actually really, really like this. Do I really need to mention? Throw it in your Arcades decks. Any green deck that's based on walls, this is going to be good in there. I'm lost in the maze. I'm down on Murders of Carlisle. Notoriously, I've said this a few times on the channel, I hate X drops. I actually don't think they're good. Like, they literally, you dump all your mana into them, you use all your resources for them, and then it's like, here's a big effect. Ooh, someone countered it, you wasted all your mana. Super sorry. I really, really like this one because even at low X cost, it's very good. Lost in the Maze comes in at 14,647 decks. It's X and 2 blue for an enchantment with flash. When Lost in the Maze enters the battlefield, tap X target creatures, put a stun counter on each of those creatures you don't control. Tapped creatures you control have hexproof. This thing is a defensive and offensive tool at the exact same time. You can tap opponent stuff, and if you do that, you put stun counters on them, and if you tap your own stuff, your tapped stuff gets hexproof. And guess what? You can just drop this for 2 blue, X being 0, and still give all your tapped stuff hexproof, which is incredibly powerful, if I'm being honest. I think this card's very, very good. Not to even mention it's an enchantment, so it works in enchantment deck, so if you're in like an enchantress list, this works in there. And past all of this, it is an enchantment, so it will continue to offer the effect of giving your tapped creatures hexproof. This all sounds very one-time usey. No, it sticks around and continues to give all your tapped stuff hexproof. Incredibly good card. Not to mention you can proliferate the stun counters. I could go on all day about this card. Very good. Pick one up. Love it. Let's talk about the funnest card on the list, Goblin Bomb. And I'm going to have to really be careful on reading this one because it's a weird-ass card. 1 and a red for an enchantment. During your upkeep, you flip a coin, then an opponent calls heads or tails. If you win the flip, put a fuse counter on this enchantment. If you lose the flip, remove a fuse counter from this enchantment. Remove 5 fuse counters from it, sacrifice it, deal 20 damage to target player. Oh. Again, proliferate. This is very doable. 5 fuse counters ain't shit. And then I can go ahead and shoot someone for 20 damage? Yeah, that seems very doable and very okay. Did I mention this card's ran in 4,959 decks? 20 to the dome. I get that theoretically with this card, I have to wait 5 turns for this to go off, and that's if I win all the flips. No, you have to win 1 flip, and then you proliferate, okay? This is going in the deck that runs a ton of proliferate stuff. What is that in red? I don't know. How about the new Kilo? He's proliferating. Hit a counter on this, start proliferating those counters, getting more and more and more counters. Not bad. Shit, put a Crushed Thumb in your deck. Make it so whenever you flip a coin, you flip 2, and you take the one you want instead if there is one. Yeah. Yeah. We're working with something here. Kind of a fun WinCon type vibe. We're working with it. Moving on from the funnest to the most mean card on the list, Head Games is a 3 and 2 black sorcery. Target opponent puts every single card in their hand on the top of their library and then gives that library to you. You search through it and get however many cards they put on top, and that's their new hand, and they shuffle their library. Oh, you got 13 cards, Mr. Blue Deck, with the Reliquary Tower? Yeah, give them to me. Here's 13 lands, big dog. The cards ran in 4,044 decks, which I think is pretty low for how powerful of an effect this is. Also, how uniquely annoying of an effect this is, and how annoying us Magic players love to be, because you guys love to be really fucking annoying. Well, I think you just love this card. Moving on to actually one of the first rares I ever pulled. I genuinely think this was the 3rd or 4th rare I ever got when I started playing Magic way back in 2006. Gleamcrawler is 3 and 3 hybrid Dimir for a 6/6 trample. At the beginning of your end step, return to your hand all creature cards that were put into your graveyard this turn. This guy's ran in 3,488 decks, and I feel like that's really, really low, and I also feel like that's because his CMC is 6, which is definitely high, and it reads more like it should go in a Reanimator deck, and then when you read that it sends the creatures back to hand, you're kind of like, whatever. No, I think this just goes in a Jund Aristocrats deck, right? Like, where you just run a bunch of Blood Artist effects and then tons of stuff you're trying to sacrifice to those effects with stuff like Ashnod's Altar, and then you run Gleamcrawler, and every end step you just reset every creature you just sacked into your hand again to get to play them again next turn, to get to sack them again, to get all the triggers again. That's where I think this thing goes. So with something like Henzi Toolbox Tori, just the default list of him, this would be a really, really good card to add in there, because the cards you're giving dash with Henzi are going to sack themselves, but now you'll get the card draw from the sack, but they will also just return themselves back to your hand with Gleamcrawler. Hey, I'm old school. I like this in something like Shatter Gang Brothers, where you're just trying to crack your own stuff to get other people to sack their stuff. That's inherently a control-y kind of aristocrat Jund build, which I think this goes great into. You crack a creature, everyone sacks a creature, you get that creature back with Gleamcrawler to your hand. I think that's actually pretty decent. So this next card, I could totally see how you think it's not very good. I don't know why I'm convinced I'm really, really going to like it in my Arna Kennerud Sky Captain token modified deck. Because, let me give you the sales pitch, okay? Has this ever happened to you? You're in the token deck, all right? You got a bunch of 1/1s. You got a bunch of 2/2s. Couple of bigger boys. You swing. The opponent doesn't want to lose their creatures. Obviously, they're not going to throw their 4/4 into your 6/6. They're not going to throw their 3/3 into your 4/4. That ain't happening. What is going to happen is every single 2/2 is going to get thrown in front of your 1/1s. Every single 3/3 is going to get thrown in front of your 2/2s, and you're going to lose all your tokens so the opponent can negate as much of the damage as they can while keeping their board. It happens every single time. Every single time. It happens every single time. Well, not anymore. With Death Rattle Oni, all right? This card I am a huge fan of. For 6 and a black, we get a 5/4 with Flash that cost 2 less for each creature that died this turn. So what? We get a cheap, somewhat big body if a bunch of our tokens die? Yeah. Oh, did I mention it has an ETB that blows up anything that was dealt damage this turn? Damn, I love this card. I really like this card, because most of the time these type of effects are in like a green dragon. Is that what that thing was called? Like when it ETBs, it gives all your creatures death touch. Those kind of big, go wide, swingy death touch effects normally come in a way that people are like, oh, I know they have death touch, I'm just not going to block that way. Nah, Death Rattle Oni, Flash, baby. Super cheap, baby. 5/4. You're telling me you don't want a 1-drop 5/4 that blows up anything that took damage this turn? I've only talked about the using it during our turn side of it. This also applies any other turn. It costs 2 less for any creature that died this turn. So even on other players' turns where that exact same thing happens and there's a huge threat that needs to be taken care of, and that big threat just blocked a token, oh, we're dropping the Uni. Oh, we're dropping the Uni. Oh, sorry, I was absolutely swooning over the card. It's ran in 2,632 decks. Up those numbers, the rookie numbers. Step your goddamn game up. Step your goddamn game up. All right, I'm done with it. Step your game up. Can we all agree that Murders at Karlov Manor was a bomb set that just keeps giving out gems? Soul Enervation is ran in 7,491 decks, and it's an absolute unit of a card. It's going in my Taval deck, so all you Taval players out there, get excited. We got some new tech here. For 3 and a black, we get a Flash Speed Enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gets -4/-4. Whenever one or more creature cards leaves our graveyard, each opponent loses 1 and we gain 1. Oh, word? Oh, word, we're doing the leave the graveyard, everyone loses one ping thing? I think Taval's absolutely okay with that. Also, an instant speed removal spell, we're always okay with that. An instant speed removal spell that gets around indestructible, we're always okay with that. An enchantment instant speed that gets around indestructible, a Nixthea is always okay with that. I absolutely love this card. I'm picking one up for Taval. I think this card's an absolute unit. Swapping out one of my other pieces of removal for this, immediately. Distended Mindbender is an 8-drop 5/5 with Emerge for 4 and 2 black, which now that I've started to build my Haragast deck, I've realized how powerful Emerge is as a ability, and I started looking up Emerge cards. This one's pretty good. And if you don't know what Emerge is, you can pay its Emerge cost, so in this it's 5 and 2 black, by sacking a creature and then subtracting that creature's mana cost from the Emerge cost. So we sack a 5-drop, this costs 2 black for a 5/5. It's also got, when you cast this spell, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose from it a non-land card with mana value 3 or less, and a card with mana value 4 or greater, and that player discards those cards. A theoretical 2 black 5/5 target player reveals their hand, and then you get to rip out their 2 best big and small spell with a built-in sack a creature when it comes into play. I could definitely see a lot of decks using this to a great value again. And I ain't talking off-brand cereal. This card's ran in 2019 decks. Where does it go exactly? I'm not sure, if I'm being honest. This one's more of a you might have had a thing pop into your head while I talked about this card and you want to put it in there. And if you got that idea, you got that thing, please drop a comment. Let me know where this would go exactly. I think it's a cool card. Wanted to talk about it. Not much past that. Moving on to Insatiable Frugivore. This is actually a bomb card. If you're in like the food token deck where you run plenty of creatures, this is a unit of a card. For 3 and a black, we get a 2/4. When it enters the battlefield, create a food token. Then you may exile 3 cards from your graveyard. If you do, repeat this process. So if you've got 12 cards in graveyard, exile your whole graveyard, you make 4 food tokens. And this just keeps scaling up with how big your graveyard is. You can also pay 3 and a black to sacrifice X food tokens and give your whole board +X/+O and Menace. Even in like a token deck, this isn't bad just to throw in to give all your tokens Menace and a huge buff. But if you're in the food deck, you could do like not even serious damage. You could end the game with this card. If you're in the Guillaume Master Chef deck that makes just mad foods and then you drop one of these, you're like, yeah, I'll go ahead and sack 12 tokens, give my board +12/+0 and Menace. That's something slight. And in 7,039 decks, that's nuts to me. No pun intended, no squirrel pun intended. Absolutely almonds that this guy's not in enough decks. Definite squirrel pun intended. So Wirewood Hivemaster comes in next. This is ran in 1,495 decks, which I think is pretty ridiculous. I'm not an elf ball player or even like an elf tribal player at all. I think this is definitely pretty good though. For 1 and a green, we get a 1/1 elf. Whenever another non-token elf enters under our control, we get a 1/1 insect. This is an insect. It's not an elf. It doesn't interact with elves. You're right. It does interact with some really powerful stuff in elves like Skull Clamp. You're just getting an insect that you can skull clamp onto every time you drop an elf. That seems fantastic. Then you get to keep your elves around for stuff that scales off the amount of elves you control, which is even better. Ashnod's Altar plugged into an elf deck, plugged in with Wirewood Hivemaster as well. That seems really, really good. You can just mana ramp out more elves to get more insects to get more elves. That's absolutely insane. I think it's a fucking good card. Moving on to Sanctuary Blade, which is ran in 4,997 decks. This 2-mana equipment that equips for 3 gives equip creature +2/+0 and has protection from the chosen color because every time this attaches to a new creature, you get to choose a color. Now, is this fantastic? Sure, it's not as good as some of the Sword ofs cycle, but the fact you can like switch this around is actually pretty useful if your games tend to go long, because you can throw this on where most of the removal's coming from, and then if you make it to a 1v1 situation, re-equip it to one of your threats, and then change it to the main color your only opponent left has been using to remove stuff. I think there's some interesting use cases for this. I really like it in Arna, not necessarily my version because I'm not going for the auras or the equipment route, but if you are going for the auras or equipment route, this could be really good to just get a bunch of Sanctuary Blades on your side of the board, buff up a bunch of your stuff. It has protection from all different colors. Let's move on to another interesting card. I actually remember seeing this when we played the Conspiracy Draft when it came out. Flameright is a red and a white for a 1/1. You can pay 1 and tap it to put a 1/1 colorless construct artifact creature token into play with Defender, or you can tap it to sacrifice a creature with Defender to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. The second part, meh, if someone plays something that's kind of strong early game, like an Esper Sentinel or something that has 1 power, you can snipe it with this if you need to. But honestly, where my brain went was Osgear. Again, works really well with Skull Clamp because these are 1/1s, so you can, attach Skull Clamp to your 1/1s. I don't know. Again, weird card. Not 100% sure where it goes. It's ran in 973 decks, so I guess a lot of you guys aren't sure where it goes. let's try to figure it out. And then finally, to finish off our mega list of obscure cards, we've got such a doozy bomb, it's nuts. We got Wretched Anerid. Now, it might seem a little underwhelming. This 1 and a black 3/3 that makes us lose a life whenever a creature enters might seem bad, and that's because it is. We could run it in Blim and then give it to somebody else, which I really like. That's always fun. But we could also run it in the new Baiter list we were talking about, because it reanimates creatures equal to the amount of life we lost this turn. This is actually a really useful piece in that deck. I'm actually going to throw this into that list. Or if you're in John Arenicus, if you want to be a literal scumbag, you can just goat it, give it to someone else. It can't be sacked, so they can't even get rid of the shit. And then it just has to be smacking other opponents while also forcing that opponent to be losing massive life whenever any creature ETBs. Not even to think if there's a token deck at the table. So sorry to that dude. It's in 6,768 decks, which makes me feel like it's probably in those lists that it should be in, but that doesn't mean that you don't have one of these lists and don't know about this card. Put it in there if you don't. Actually, saucy in those lists.
Sinkhole Surveyor. Sinkhole Surveyor is 1 and a black for a 1/3 with flying. Whenever this creature attacks, you lose 1 life, and this creature endures 1, which means you put a 1/1 counter on it, or you create a 1/1 white spirit token. Sinkhole Surveyor is 23 cents, and it's ran in 5,697 decks. In a bubble, I like this card because it comes out early. It will either become a huge unit with built-in evasion, it has flying, or it'll just help you go wide. This thing is a go wide and go tall built into the same 2-drop, which I think is pretty useful. Outside of that, though, I like the fact that this interacts with Skull Clamp by spitting out 1/1s when it attacks, and also sack outlets like Ashnod's Altar because, again, we're making tokens whenever it attacks. Now, if you're looking for a couple of commander suggestions, we've got Arna Kennerud Sky Captain. I run this card personally in my Arna deck, and it is incredible. It either gives you tokens to start throwing 1/1 counters on with the rest of our 1/1 counter sub-theme, or you just start putting 1/1 counters on the Sinkhole Surveyor and turn it into a giant counters getting doubled by Arna threat. It's really good. I also like anything with the Endure mechanic in Ishin 2 Heavens as 1 because it doubles all your attack triggers, so when we swing with this, we will get 2 Endure triggers, which can be incredibly strong. Again, for all the aforementioned reasons, you're now making 2 tokens, you're getting 2 counters. It's not bad. All in all, I really like this card. It did work in Sealed. It continued to do work in my commander deck. There you go. Moving on to Courageous Resolve. I could have used some Courageous Resolve this last couple of weeks, from super bad cold, then super bad body muscle aches all over the place, then really bad headaches, and then from all the coughing, guess what? Pulled my lower back, so my back was completely out for a couple days. And then today, your boy's constipated. I'm firing cannonballs off in there, so some Courageous Resolve could be appreciated. Please, Courageous Resolves in the comments. Thank you so much. Courageous Resolve is 2 and a white for an instant. Up to 1 target creature you control gains protection from each of your opponents until end of turn. Draw a card. Fateful Hour, if you have 5 or less life, you can't lose life this turn, you can't lose the game this turn, and your opponents can't win the game this turn. That seems really good. This card's 50 cents. It's ran in 9,013 decks, and I think this is incredibly good. It's really good if your commander is like a linchpin of the deck. If you need your commander to stick around, this is incredibly good. It can also be used offensively or defensively. If you're in a Voltron commander, getting protection from all opponents means that it can swing without worrying about any blockers, any combat tricks, any removal, anything. Or, obviously, use it defensively to protect your commander, or protect yourself if you're at 5 or less life. You can use this thing to not only prevent yourself from losing the game, but potentially prevent an opponent from winning it. Like, if you could interrupt someone's combo chain by casting this and being like, hey, by the time this resolves, you can't win the game this turn, so your combo doesn't work. If I had to suggest some commanders for this, I think Lightpaul's Emperor's Voice is really good with this thing because that is an incredibly important commander. You want to keep it safe, and it's a mono white deck, which will inherently make it a little bit weaker to some other decks at the table that aren't monocolor. So the Fateful Hour might come in handy at some point during the game. Or something like Hilda the Ice Crown, which is a strictly control, tap all the opponent's creatures deck that more than likely runs the basic control strategy of control the board state, control anything the opponent's trying to do until we can play combo or win condition and win the game. Courageous Resolve, I think, would help pretty well in that. Up next is Mist of Stagnation, which is 3 and 2 blue for an enchantment. Permanents don't untap during their controller's untap step. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player untaps a permanent for each card in his or her graveyard. This card is 47 cents, and it's ran in 564 decks. Probably because it's a 5-drop. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be coming out like super easily, but I think that effect is incredibly strong, especially if you're running stuff like Bajuka Bog, so you can eliminate the possibility of your opponents untapping a lot because you can exile their graveyard, or something like Perpetual Timepiece to mill our own graveyard. I mean, if we're in the self-mill strategy, inherently this card's going to be good. So if you're in something like Taval the Balance Scale, I actually kind of like this card. I might start running this just as, one, a weird niche card to run in the deck, two, I feel like that's pretty good. Another commander that comes to mind is like the Master of Keys. This is an enchantment deck that cares about enchantments being in graveyard. So Mist of Stagnation, plenty of cards in graveyard, is an enchantment. 2 boxes checked. Does that count as a 3rd box? Can your 3rd box be 2 boxes checked? Ooh, answer that, scientist of the world. Answer that. All in all, though, I like this card. Moving on to Neverwinter Druid. For 1 green, we get a 1/1. We can pay 2, sacrifice Neverwinter Dryad, search your library for a basic forest card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Now, is it the best card? No. If you're in a mono green deck, 2-color deck with green, I think this is just as good as a Wayfarer's Bauble. Wayfarer's Bauble also gets a basic land. This one's also a body, so you can sack it to sack outlets, throw a Skull Clamp on it, chump block with it, and then sack. Attack with it. Thought I'd shout it out. I think it's pretty cool. And while we're here with not a lot to say, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And let's move on to Sigil of Distinction. Sigil of Distinction is X for an artifact equipment. It enters with X charge counters on it. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each charge counter on it. The equipped cost is to remove a charge counter from it. Sigil of Distinction is 83 cents, and it's ran in 4,124 decks. Now, this one's a weird one because I'm not a big X spell fan. I do like that this one can still be pretty useful if you just drop it for 3. Drop it for 3, remove a counter, attach it to something, that thing gets +2/+2. I think that's okay, but if you're running proliferate stuff like Flux Channeler, which will give you proliferate when you play non-creature spells, you could potentially be getting more and more and more and more and more charge counters on this thing. It could actually become a really decent equipment on your side of the board. Any commander that can proliferate seems good with this guy. Kilo, Apogee Mind, the newest one from Edge of Eternities that proliferates when it attacks. That seems actually pretty good with this thing. Put this thing on Kilo, and then every time you swing, it proliferates and puts more and more and more counters on itself. That's, of course, if you're going for like more of a weird Voltron-y Kilo, which I guess you could do. That could be interesting. Let me know down below where you guys think this card would go, because it is a little weird, I will admit. Moving on to Selesnya Charm, this is one of my favorite cards of all time. For 1 green, 1 white, we get an instant with Choose One. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. Exile target creature with power 5 or greater, or create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. Selesnya Charm is 17 cents and ran in 10,605 decks. Like a lot of the charms, it just covers so many bases. It buffs and provides evasion, so if you're running more of an aggressive strategy, there you go. It exiles large power threats on board, so if you're in more of a mid-range aggro strategy and you can't handle late game stuff well, this is really good for that. And for any creatures attacking us or any kind of utility we need combat-wise that don't fit into the first 2 categories, we can just make a 2/2 chump blocking knight. I really like this as a combat trick card and removal in the same card. I really think it's good. Pick one up. Up next, we've got Goblin Diplomats. For 1 and a red, it's a 2/1 with tap. Each creature attacks this turn if able. Goblin Diplomats is a 42-cent card, and it's ran in 8,305 decks. The forced combat, I feel, works really well with cards like Combat Calligrapher, which benefits opponents from swinging at other of our opponents. So when we force swings, we can be like, hey, you can't swing at me, but if you swing at them, you start getting 2/1 Inklings from this Combat Calligrapher. Or, of course, stuff like Ghostly Prison to just prevent attacking you from being easy, so they will just swing at opponents inherently. That's always good. Couple of commander suggestions. I think Promicon Sky Rampart is really good because it forces everyone to attack in one direction, and then you can use Goblin Diplomats to force an attack on a turn you know you can't get attacked and start making the table attack each other, and then when it gets to the turn of the person that could attack you, you just go, nah, you're good. Or you're just running so much pillow fort stuff like Ghostly Prison plus Promicon, they just can't do anything in the first place. I like Thantis for the same reason. Whenever opponents attack us, Thantis gets 1/1 counters, so you can force attacks. They'll probably swing at other people because they don't want us having a giant Thantis we can just fling at somebody. And again, Gahaji Honored One, same deal. When opponents attack other opponents, their creatures get +2/+0. So anything like that with forced attack, especially on a 2-drop that can tap to make everything forced attack for that turn. It honestly shocked me this was under 15k decks, so I think we give it a shot, boys. I say we try it out, boys. Moving on to the card in this list that single-handedly shocks me price-wise, the amount of decks it's ran, the fact that it's uncommon. This is one of those cards that I had to read like 4 or 5 times to be like, no, yeah, that's what it says. I think this is very, very good, in my opinion. Obsessive Skinner, Steamed Hams, is a 1 and a green 1/1. When Obsessive Skinner enters, put a 1/1 counter on target creature at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep. If there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Yeah, I don't even need the notes for this one. Yeah, a 2-drop that enters and puts a 1/1 counter on anything is already okay. I'm not gonna say that's good, but that's okay. You know what I mean? A lot of the time it would be a 2-drop that has to put a 1/1 counter on itself. The fact that it can go on anything, that's a good start. Then it says at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep. And I had to read that 3 or 4 times because I'm like, are you sure it's not at the beginning of my upkeep? No, each opponent's. Okay. If there are 4 or more card types in your Oh, not the opponent's graveyard? In my graveyard? Yeah, if you're in a graveyard deck, not even in a graveyard deck, it's really not that hard to get Delirium to trigger in most decks. Instant sorcery, artifact, enchantment, creature. There's so many ways to like get that to go off now. But especially if you're in a graveyard deck, Delirium's really easy to trigger. And then pretty much once you have Delirium, you're gonna have Delirium. So your turn, I get a 1/1 counter. Your turn, I get a 1/1 counter. Your turn, I get a 1/1 counter. My turn, I just put 3 buffs on my creatures during each opponent's turn. Okay, let's go for another rotation. Oh, everything's getting huge on my side of the board. And it's insane to me that the second part of this says target as well. Like, that would almost read to me, enters, puts 1/1 on something else, and then it starts getting big during opponent's turns. Nah, that also says anything. You're not giving your opponent a great option here. You can just disperse these counters very wide and just... Yeah, sorry. If this was Esper, this would be going in Arna immediately. Unfortunately, it's green. Not unfortunately, though, I'm putting this in Taval. I was thinking about it. Taval's whole thing is you mill yourself, you're reanimating. Whenever stuff leaves your graveyard, you're getting 2/2 zombies. So Delirium in that deck, extraordinarily easy to trigger since our commander will mill us 3 cards when it attacks. And then we can just start buffing zombies, okay? Also, just realized, just clicked in my brain, it says any target creature, not you control. So again, you can use this politically as well. You could be like, hey, on your upkeep, do you want me to throw something on one of your things? No. I don't know. I think this card's actually nutty. I'm gonna say, I think this card's nutty. I think this is a very, very good card, and it is under 5k decks. It's 8 cents. Turn 2 Mana Rock into turn 2 Sinkhole Surveyor and Obsessive Skinner. I don't know. I think you got a pretty good start there. Hate to be a broken record. Obsessive Skinner's great. Let's move on. Let's move on to Floodpit's Drowner. Floodpit's Drowner is 1 and a blue for a 2/1 flash vigilance. When Floodpit's Drowner enters, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. You can pay 1 and a blue, tap Floodpit's Drowner, shuffle Floodpit's Drowner and target creature with a stun counter on it into their owner's libraries. Not bad. You get a 2/1 body at flash speed. You lock down one of their creatures for 2 turns because it has a stun counter on it. You can proliferate that stun counter, or you can just use it as straight up removal by tapping the Floodpit's Drowner and then shuffling the Floodpits plus the creature with a stun counter into their decks. I don't think that's terrible. I think like there's some pretty good synergies here. This is one that I'm not 100% sold on personally, but it felt good enough to include. I like how it interacts with stuff like Flux Channeler. Whenever we play a non-creature spell, we can proliferate, so we can pretty much indefinitely lock one of their creatures down with a stun counter. I like the fact that it's a merfolk, so it has synergy with stuff like Deeproot Elite. I like this thing, obviously, in Hilda of the Ice Crown. That thing is all about stun counters, so this is perfect. And this isn't a terrible blink target in something like Rune of the Hidden Realm to just start tapping stuff down and throwing stun counters on it. Tap one thing, throw a stun counter on it. Tap something else, throw a stun counter on it. You can kind of like mix and match who you want to lock down with it. Definitely worth a shout out in my eyes. Let's move on to Under the Skin. Under the Skin is 2 and a green for a sorcery with Manifest Dread. And to Manifest Dread, you look at the top 2 cards of your library, put 1 into the battlefield face down as a 2/2, and the other into your graveyard. You can turn the face down card face up for its mana cost if it's a creature card. Plus, Under the Skin returns a permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. This card is 10 cents and ran in 8,217 decks. And I feel like it's actually pretty good as a replacement for some other similar effects if you're in specific deck list. Like my Taval Balance Scale deck, I almost feel like I could take out Eternal Witness for this card because it fills my grave, puts another 2/2 body into play that I could potentially flip, and returns a permanent. And like, let's be honest, we're in a reanimator deck. I can hit Animate Dead, I can hit Dance of the Dead, I can hit any of my creatures that are in that deck, I can hit Necromancy. And especially in a deck like Taval, Under the Skin's great because it's just a pay 2 and a green to create 2 2/2s, because you'll get the 2/2 from Taval plus the 2/2 from Under the Skin plus a permanent from your graveyard to your hand. Not to even mention if the 2/2 you put into play face down is a creature that you can just flip for its mana cost. Great way to get some of your big bombs into play without people countering them. You can manifest them into play with Manifest Red, flip them on a later turn. People can't counterspell them. I hate to be a broken record. I'm probably going to try this card as well in my Taval to Balance Scale deck. I just think it's good, man. There's a bunch of cool stuff today that I'm excited to actually give a test in this bad boy. Moving on, we got Luminate Primordial, which is 5 and 2 white for a 4/7 with Vigilance. When Luminate Primordial enters the battlefield, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target creature that player controls, and that player gains life equal to its power. So you get 3 Swords to Plowshares stapled onto a 4/7 Vigilance. Obviously, this works great with stuff like Cloud Shift, because you can blink it and then get 3 more exiles, which is fantastic. Or stuff like Assault Formation, which will let your creatures deal damage equal to their toughness instead. So this card inherently is going to be good in something like Duran the Siege Tower, which will have all your creatures do damage equal to their toughness. Or a deck like Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, which will double your ETBs, which will, of course, double this ETB and give you 6 exiles, which is actually kind of nutty to think about. Or just a blink deck like Brago King Eternal. Start blinking this thing, getting exiles each turn. Seems really, really nice. The fact that this is in under 10k blows me away. I've been running this card since the day it was printed back in, when was this made? Kind of assumed it was over 15k at this point. Run it. Let's talk about Web of Inertia. I think I've talked about this before. I couldn't find the video on my channel, but I'm pretty sure I did. Even so, here it is. Web of Inertia is 2 and a blue for an enchantment. At the beginning of each opponent's combat phase, that player may remove a card from his or her graveyard from the game. If that player doesn't, creatures they control cannot attack you this turn. Web of Inertia is 42 cents, and it's ran in 5,738 decks. Now again, stuff like Bajuka Bog, where you can exile opponents' graveyards, that's going to be great, because they won't have anything to exile from their graveyard to help with their Web of Inertia, so they won't be able to swing at us if their grave's empty. Really good. Rest in Peace. There you go. Nothing can go to grave anymore. Rest in Peace plus Web of Inertia, you cannot be attacked anymore. There's that tech. Plus, it gives you an excuse to be annoying as hell and run Rest in Peace. You can be like, I'm not running it to shut you down completely, graveyard deck. I'm running it for my Web of Inertia. Duh. Again, Pramicon Sky Rampart, the wall deck where you pick a direction. I think this is really good in there. Of course, in that deck, you don't have access to Bajuka Bog, so maybe you could run something like Relic of Progenitus or like Felden's Cane, maybe, to start exiling graveyards. Pretty good, man. I just wanted to shout it out. I think it's a worthy of shout out card. Speaking of worthy of shout out card, the rare Subscribe card costs 0 mana, instant speed, split second. And this is your chance to play it right now, okay? So go ahead and play the Subscribe card. You really think this is going to get them to subscribe? Well, I think they're grown adults, and I think that they can be told straight up, hey, why don't you click that subscribe button? Ding! Appreciate you. Moving on to Epic Struggle. Epic Struggle is 2 and 2 green for an enchantment, and if you creature go wide token loving decks needing a new win con, here you go, my guys. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 20 or more creatures, you win the game. Epic Struggle is $8.13, and it's ran in 4,270 decks. What can I say about this card? Is it great? No, it has to sit and play. People are probably going to try to remove it. You're going to have to protect the shit out of it, so maybe play Simic so you can run counter spells to protect it. Oh no, a Simic token deck. Don't make me, he says. Just a fun one, if I'm being honest. If you wanted a fun way to try to start winning games in one of your token or go wide decks, try Epic Struggle. This seems like a good time. Next, I want to talk about Isildur's Fateful Strike. For 2 and 2 black at instant speed, it is a legendary instant, so you have to control a legendary in order to play it. Destroy target creature. If its controller has more than 4 cards in their hand, they exile cards from their hand equal to the difference. So, someone just got done drawing a fat stack of cards, the blue deck, the Simic deck, just played their Prime Speaker Zagan. Okay, let an old head pretend that that's still the meta, okay? And draws 10, 15 cards. You can just drop an Isildur's Fate, blow up their Prime Speaker, and then go, hey, how many cards you got? Oh, you got 19? You're gonna have to exile 15 out of your hand, buddy. I'm sorry about that. Again, this is only if you control your commander. I guess you don't have to have your commander, you just have to have a legendary. So if you're in a legendary tribal deck, this is going to be good. So like Joda, maybe you could run this as a piece of removal. I like this in Rograk, son of Rogath. Those names are just partnered with like a black partner. That seems really good because then because he's a 0-drop legendary, you're probably gonna have him out most of the game and make Isildur's castable most of the game. Casual to high casual play group that doesn't really like running combos that just win the game out of nowhere, but you do like powerful decks. I think this is actually a pretty good piece of removal. You can stop like really high value engines or big turns from popping off too hard, cut some big hands back down to size. Just slot it in for one of your removal pieces. Pretty nice. Moving on to Chalk Outline. For 3 and a green, we get an enchantment. Whenever one or more creature cards leaves your graveyard, create a 2/2 white and blue detective creature token, then investigate. Chalk Outline is 8 cents and it's ran in 5,845 decks, which I think is pretty low because like I feel as if a lot of the numbers there are just casual decks because like if I'm any kind of like thing to judge other Magic players off of, I build a ton of just casual decks on Moxfield, and I can't help but think a lot of you do the same. So a lot of this number of decks played thing you see from EDH Rec is probably from like very casual players. So seeing Chalk Outline at 5,845, I think it needs to be ran in way more. This seems like a casual fun card to be playing. I'm almost considering it in my Taval balance scale deck. It's a little slow. If it costs 3, I would probably put it in there. But if you're running a graveyard themed deck similar to Taval, but it also has like Clue sub themes, this becomes way better. Then I like highly suggest it. Like if Taval had like some kind of Clue thing built into her, I'd be like Chalk Outline's insane. I do weirdly enough like this in Taval Arbiter of Virtue because that deck lets you cast stuff for much cheaper with Delve. So Chalk Outline can come out for 1 green really easily in that deck. And then delving happens multiple times a turn when you play that deck. So getting Chalk Outline itself to trigger multiple times a turn in that deck, not hard at all. Then you're flooding the board with blockers, you're flooding the board with Clue tokens, and it came out for 1 green mana. So the other Taval, funnily enough, I think Chalk Outline's actually like much better in that one. I want to talk about Sunder the Gateway because I actually think this card's incredibly good. For 1 and a white, we get a sorcery speed, choose one. Destroy target non-token artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. Incubate 2. Or you can incubate 2, then transform an incubator token you control. If you don't know what incubating is, you put an incubator token into play with whatever number it says next to it. For this one, it says 2. And incubator tokens are just artifacts with those counters on them until you pay 2 mana to turn them into creatures. Sunder the Gateway is 8 cents and ran in 8,359 decks. So, second option to just make an incubator and flip it, that's useless. But having like a naturalize or like a disenchant that not only spits out a potential 2/2, but spits out a 2/2 that's an artifact, this feels like it should slot into a lot of decks very easily. It interacts really good with stuff like Benny Brax. If you made a token this turn, draw a card. Not only are you paying 1 and a white with Sunder the Gateway to remove an artifact or an enchantment an opponent controls, you're now doing that, getting a 2/2 incubation token, then drawing a card off Benny Brax, which for 2 mana, sure, I think that's fine. Again, I value cards a lot of the time based off the number of boxes they can check because I think that makes them very versatile and inherently good over some other options. This one card offers you artifacts ETBs, it offers you 1/1 counters, it offers you creature ETBs, it offers you removal, it offers you token if you have any token doubling things. Pretty insane. If you have a doubling season in play, you're getting 2 incubation tokens that both have 4 counters on them. So you just got 8 power and blew something up if you have a doubling season type effect in play, which you probably will have in something like Ginny Faye, where you're just creating a ton of tokens, turning them into 3/1s, 2/2s. Seems like incredibly good. Even if you're not in a deck that utilizes the incubation token to its full like use, I'm still thinking it's really good. And yeah, if you're gonna ask, this is gonna go in Arna Kenrud Sky Captain for the exact same reason. It creates a 2/2 with 2 1/1 counters on it that I could start doubling the counters with Arna. Built into a naturalize, built into a disenchant. Yes, I'll take as many of those as I can run. So this next card, my buddy Deegan played this against me. I had not seen this card, and when he played it, I had to read it a few times, and I was like, okay, yeah, go for it. That's really good. And then later that same night, my cousin was talking to me, and he was like, is that really what that card Deegan played does? Because that seems way too good. I started laughing because I was like, that's literally exactly what I thought. No, it does exactly that. It's insane. Hide in Plain Sight is 3 and a green for a sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library, cloak 2 of them, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And if you don't know what cloaking is, you put it face down as a 2/2 with ward 2, and you can flip it for its mana cost if it's a creature to put it into play. Hide in Plain Sight is 13 cents and ran in 9,018 decks. Yeah, for that same reason I was saying that other card that put stuff face down is good, it can't be countered. So if you're in a deck with a ton of high priority creatures you're trying to get into play, this is actually very good because they're either going to have to waste a counter countering this card, or the 2 creatures you put into play are going to see play. And this has the added bonus of being cloaked, which means they have ward 2, which we all know we're not going to pay that most of the time. I'm not going to pay 3 mana for a Swords to Plowshare. Thanks though, face down 2/2 thing that I'm not sure what it is. Of course, this is good in something like Cost Eyes of the Glade, which is based around turning face down stuff face up for free, which is incredibly powerful if you're running a bunch of big combat threats. But how about this one? How about this one? How about this scoop of deck building on your plate? Why don't you run it in something like the Wise Mothman, which can offer huge +1/+1 counter buffs to your creatures, so you can put 2 cloaked things into play and start buffing the crap out of them to either have just a huge thing with ward 2 in play, or if they actually are creatures on the other side, flip them and they just keep their 1/1 counters and they just become a giant version of the thing on the other side. Or you just go with the face down thing. Both incredibly good. I think this card's very, very good. Gonna pick one up. Moving on, we got Saiba Cryptomancer, who is 1 and a blue for a 0/1 flash backup 1, which means when it enters the battlefield, you can give another creature a +1/+1 counter, plus all the following abilities on this card, and it also has hexproof. So when it comes into play, you give another one of your creatures a +1/+1 counter and hexproof. Saiba Cryptomancer is 15 cents and ran in 8,050 decks. I don't hate this actually. In a bubble, this is not very strong. But then when you start plugging it into different lists, I actually really, really like this. So like in my Arna Kenrid Sky Captain deck, that is an Esper build all around putting 1/1 counters on a ton of tokens, swinging, doubling those counters, making things huge, and then bashing opponent's face while doubling those counters with Arna. So if I can run a piece of protection that I can flash into play that provides hexproof for not only Arna, but any of my stuff that's gotten big enough to become threats worthy of getting rid of by an opponent. It's also itself a 0/1 body that I can start throwing counters on, and it provides a 1/1 counter to the thing that I just protected, which in Arna, 1/1 counters and a way to get them started on different stuff that may not be able to get it started themselves is incredibly useful. So if you're in like Arna Kenrid Sky Captain, or if you're in a deck similar, a deck that cares about counters, cares about going wide, cares about getting as many bodies on the board as possible, but also has really high priority value bodies, I think this is pretty good. And what I always say when a card doesn't say you control, you can give anything hexproof with this. So you could use this politically if you want to. Now let's talk about impulsive maneuvers for you chaos players out there. For 2 and 2 red, we get an enchantment. Whenever a creature attacks, flip a coin. If you win the flip, that creature does double damage. If you lose the flip, that creature does no damage. Impulsive maneuvers is $3.23 and ran in 7,733 decks. This is going to be the shortest entry here. Chaos. Up next, we got Vengeful Regrowth, which is 4 and 2 green for a sorcery. Return up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Create that many 4/2 plant warrior creature tokens with reach, and has flashback for 6 and 2 green. I don't know who's flashback in that, but still, pretty decent card. This card is 21 cents and it's ran in 9,004 decks, and I feel like it's pretty good. Like, obviously, if you're in the landfall deck running stuff like Tireless Provisioner, this is 3 more lands ETBing, which is going to be very valuable in a landfall deck. And of course, a token deck. If you're in something that runs Doubling Season, you're going to be getting 6 4/2s with reach. That's not going to be bad. So commanders like Omnath, Locus of Creation, which cares about landfall, not only cares about landfall, cares about your first, second, and third landfall trigger of the turn. And wouldn't you know it, Vengeful Regrowth returns 3 lands, so that could be really, really good in that deck. Or a commander like the Necrobloom, which not only cares about landfall, also cares about tokens. That's checking both boxes here. Seems like a definite include in those decks. Moving on, we've definitely got the most interesting card on the list. I can definitely say that. Xerex Strobe Knight. I remember seeing this when I played the March of the Machines pre-release and thinking this card was very, very good, especially for limited. This is insane. But then re-looking at it, I'm like, if you're a casual commander player, I think this is really, really fun. For 2 and a blue, we get a 2/2 with flying and vigilance that we can tap to create a 2/2 white and blue knight creature token with vigilance. Activate only if you've cast 2 or more spells this turn. Xerec Strobe Knight is 8 cents and ran in 5,241 decks. So yeah, you play a Ponder and then a Brainstorm and then tap this and you get another 2/2 body with vigilance. This is a pretty good token engine just for blue, which is really weird. A token engine for blue that makes 2/2 knights, I feel like is pretty invaluable in certain lists out there. Hear me out. I know I said this was casual. What if you ran Intruder Alarm with this? What if you played a Ponder, then played an Intruder Alarm, then tapped this to make a 2/2 knight, then triggered your Intruder Alarm to untap all your creatures, then tapped this to make a 2/2 knight, and then untap your creatures, and then tap this, and then untap your creatures, and then tap this, then tap your creatures, then untap this. Welcome to the world of slightly higher casual. Infinite 2/2 knights. You're welcome. Take it home. I'm not even going to patent it. Moving on to Gleeful Sabotage, we've got a 1 and a green sorcery that destroys target artifact or enchantment that also has Conspire. So if you tap 2 untapped creatures that share a color with it, we can copy it. Gleeful Sabotage is 24 cents and ran in 2,078 decks. So tap 2 green creatures when you play this to get 2 naturalizes for 2 mana. If you're in like Chatterfang, I think you got plenty of squirrels to tap to make this a 2 mana destroy 2 artifacts and or enchantments. That seems really good. Moving on to Sinister Concierge. This 1 and a blue 2/1 has when Sinister Concierge dies, you may exile it and put 3 times counters on it. If you do, exile up to 1 target creature and put 3 times counters on it. Each card exiled this way that doesn't have suspend gains suspend. Yeah, it's what's that white one? There's a white card that like when it blocks, it like kills the thing it blocked. It's like the 1/1 Monk Master. This is like the blue version of that. You're just threatening to block, threatening to remove the best thing in play. It's really actually the white one. You have to remove the thing it blocked. I don't think you have to remove the thing it blocked with this one. Nah, you don't. You get to pick whatever. And that's when it dies. You could just throw a Skull Clamp on this thing. Force it to die, suspend something, 3 turns happen, everything ETBs again, Skull Clamp it again, draw 2, exile it again. Not to even mention, like, if you're in the suspend deck, like if you're in the Joyra of the Get To deck, you're already in the suspend thing, you might as well run this. Moving on to Tilonali's Summoner, which is 1 and a red for a 1/1 with Ascend, which means you get the City's Blessing if you have 10 or more permanents. What does that mean? It affects cards' abilities. Tilonali's Summoner is 41 cents, and it's ran in 11,177 decks. So whenever Tilonali's Summoner attacks, you may pay X and a red to create that many 1/1 red elemental creature tokens that are tapped at attacking. You have to exile them at the end of turn unless you have the City's Blessing, then they stick around. So this thing could be an incredibly potent token engine, like actually. Skull Clamp, again, interacts with all these 1/1s. Ashnod's Altar, you can crack a ton of these 1/1s to not only replace the mana that you just put into Tilonali's, you get double the mana you just put into Tilonali's, which seems fantastic. I really like this thing in commanders like Arabella the Abandoned Doll, which is all about playing as many small creatures in play and getting them to attack so that you can get Arabella to get a huge buff and deal a ton of damage. Or just a straight up token deck like Jetmir, which cares about the number of creatures you have in play. Super potent card. I think we should give it a try in certain decks. A weird one for the list is War Report, being 3 and a white for an instant. You gain life equal to the number of creatures on the battlefield plus the number of artifacts on the battlefield. War Report is 23 cents and it's ran in 6,497 decks. If you're in a creature-based life gain deck, this seems pretty decent. Like if you got Well of Lost Dreams in play, you drop this, you can draw a fat stack of cards in your hand. And if you're in a commander like Will, Scion of Peace, which makes your spells cost less, equal to the amount of life you gained this turn, you can drop this and gain a ton of life. It's for the creatures in play, not just yours. Plus artifacts. Everyone's running mana rocks. Tons of people run clues, foods, treasures. I feel like this could like pop off in a lot of life gain decks. And y'all ain't giving it the chance. So give it the chance. Moving on to my personal favorite card of the list. I just think this card's really, really cool. Extraordinary Journey is 2x and 2 blue for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, exile up to X target creatures. For each of those cards, its owner may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Whenever 1 or more non-token creatures enters the battlefield, if 1 or more of them entered from exile or was cast from exile, you draw a card. This ability only triggers once per turn. Extraordinary Journey is 9 cents and it's ran in 10,914 decks. I like this card a lot. I think the double X in its cost is a bit of a red herring that you're like supposed to be like, oh, this isn't that great because of the X. You can just drop this for 2 blue. Like if you're in the blink deck, you can just play this for 2 blue. 2 blue enchantment. Whenever you blink something, draw a card, triggers once a turn. That's a pretty good draw engine for a blink deck. Blink during my turn, draw a card. Your turn, I'll blink, draw a card. I'll blink, draw a card. I'll blink, draw a card. Am I missing something? If this was just a 2 blue, whenever a creature ETBs from exile, draw a card, only triggers once, it'd be like, that's a pretty good enchantment for blink decks. That's what this is. It just has a built-in double X to exile threats that are in play, if need be. So again, if you're in the blink deck like Rune of the Hidden Realm, this is incredibly good. You're running stuff like Cloud Shift in that deck. This is going to do gangbusters for you. Moving on to Doretti Ingenious Iconoclast. This Planeswalker is 1, a black, and a red for 3 loyalty. For its +1, we put a 1/1 colorless construct artifact into play with Defender. It's -1, you could sacrifice an artifact to destroy target artifact or creature. And it's -6, you can choose an artifact in your graveyard and create 3 tokens that are copies of it. Doretti Ingenious Iconoclast comes in at $3.01 and is ran in 8,380 decks. Again, I'm a broken record here. It makes 1/1s, so it does interact with Skull Clamp. The first deck that popped into my head, Breya Ethereum Sculptor. My cousin runs this deck. It's a blink deck. You keep blinking Breya, you're making tons of Thopters, you're dumping all those into Breya to just toolbox out. So you just play Doretti, sack a Thopter, do it again next turn, +1 the turn after that to make another 1/1, which is perfect for the deck because that's more sack fodder for your Breya now. They just feed into each other. It seems really, really good in that list. So yeah, don't try it. Moving on to Hurkyl's Final Meditation. This 4 and 3 blue instant costs 3 less to cast if you cast it during someone else's turn. Return all non-land permanents to their owner's hand, and end the turn. Hurkyl's Final Meditation is 11 cents and ran in 2,534 decks. Yeah, I mean, a pseudo board wipe with an end the turn built into it. If you can, just like control out, wait for it to be the turn of the person right before it's your turn, drop this, return everything to everyone's hand. That person next to you essentially skips their turn and it goes straight to you. You get to reset your board first. And you only paid 4 mana for that. And not even to mention if you're in a 1v1 situation, this is incredibly strong, as essentially it's just an extra turn card with a built-in board wipe. Yeah, that seems not terrible. Moving on to Failure and Comply. Failure is 1 and a blue for an instant that returns target spell to its owner's hand, while Comply is a 1 white sorcery with Aftermath, which means you can only cast it from your graveyard, then exile it. You choose a card name until your next turn. Your opponents can't cast spells with the chosen name. Failure and Comply is 15 cents, and it's ran in 1,107 decks. Just a pretty good form of protection and removal. Bounces a spell for 1 and a blue. That's actually really good. And then being able to completely stop a spell from being cast, I feel like this again kind of tricks your brain into thinking, yeah, you counter something and then stop that thing from being played. You can bounce something and then name a different card. You can bounce a really important piece of their engine back to their hand when they try to play it, and then name their commander with the other side so they can't drop their commander as well. So if someone's getting really far ahead, this card's actually really good at like bringing them back down to a speed everyone else is at. Moving on to Biotech Specialist. I know this is from Edge of Eternities. That's like the newest set, so of course it's not going to be in a lot of decks. To be fair, there are Edge of Eternities cards that are already in like 30 to 40,000 decks. So the fact that this is in 3,094, I'm still going to bring it up. I feel like this could be a card that kind of gets lost in the immense amount of cards being released. So I'm going to bring it up. Biotech Specialist is a green and a red for a 1/3. When it enters, create a lander token, which is an artifact. You can pay 2, tap, sack to Rampant Growth. You get to search for a basic, put it into play tapped. And whenever you sacrifice an artifact, this creature deals 2 damage to target opponent. Biotech Specialist is 38 cents, and it's ran in 3,094 decks. Shocking an opponent when you crack treasures or clues or food. That's kind of nuts. Tireless Provisioner, if you've got that, you can now shock people for all those treasures you're making for playing lands. That seems good. If you're in a commander like Jolene the Plunder Queen, trying to get a bunch of treasures into play, crack those treasures, bash face with Jolene, this seems fine. You're just also shocking opponents for 2 every time you crack a treasure. Sure. And like I said, you're in something like Rocco Street Chef that cares about food. Do the exact same thing, especially when you have access to cards like Academy Manufacturer in those decks, which will create a food, treasure, and a clue if you create one of them. That's nuts with this card. You start shocking everybody left and right. And again, like a lot of the cards on this list, it's a 2-drop that comes out really early and provides an insane amount of utility for how cheaply costed it is. And then finally, to end this massive list of cards, we've been recording for a little over an hour and 10 minutes. So this is easily going to be a 40, 50 minute list of obscure cards. We're going to end this one off with Viscerid Drone, which is 1 and a blue for a 1/2. We can tap it, sacrifice a creature and a swamp, Destroy target non-artifact creature. It can't be regenerated. Or we can tap it, sacrifice a creature and a snow swamp to destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. Yeah, if it's a snow, it gets rid of the artifact creature. It gets rid of the non-artifact clause. No pun intended. Being a lobster claw, get it? Claws. So if you're in the snow deck and you can make it work, not to sound like RuPaul or anything, but if you're in the snow deck and you can make it work, make it work, babe. What we're focused on is the first one. I think that first part's pretty good, especially when you've got stuff like, let's say, Bitter Blossom, like some kind of way to consistently create tokens, and then something like Crucible of Worlds, some kind of way to play lands from your graveyard. This guy becomes a little assassin. You crack a Bitter Blossom token, you crack your swamp, you blow something up, and then next turn you just Crucible of Worlds your swamp back into play. You get another fairy to replace it from Bitter Blossom. You're looking good. This is perfect in Muldrotha the Gravetide. Actually perfect. Muldrotha, you get to play a card for each permanent type out of your graveyard each of your turns. So yeah, crack a creature, crack a land to this thing, blow up one of your opponent's creatures, and then play that very same land and creature with Muldrotha, and probably get a ETB out of the creature as well as blowing something up with your Viscerid drone. If you want to go the snow angle, Yorn, God of Winter, obviously, he's the GOAT. Yeah, he's the GOAT! You untap all your snow permanents with him when he attacks. That's pretty busted. So you're obviously going to be in the snow deck, and then you can run some stuff. You could even run Muldrotha in that list, I'm pretty sure. That's a Sultai list. Indulge and Excess. Indulge is 2 and a red for a sorcery. Whenever a creature you control attacks this turn, create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token that's tapped and attacking. While Excess is 1 and a red for a sorcery with Aftermath, meaning you can only cast it from your graveyard. Create a treasure token for each creature you control that dealt damage to an opponent this turn. It actually says each player, that Rowan deck we talked about last upload, this could be pretty good in there. I really like this card in token commanders like Jetmir Nexus of Revels, where you're pumping out a bunch of tokens anyway. Now those tokens produce more tokens when they attack with the Indulge side of this card, and with the Excess side of this card, you just get to produce a ton of treasure tokens. I also don't mind this in something like Ishin 2 Heavens is 1, as the Indulge side of it gives all of your creatures technically an attack trigger, because whenever a creature you control attacks this turn, create a 1/1 green white citizen. Actually, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not even gonna take this out. Is that how this works? Because it doesn't say gives this creature when this creature attacks create a 1/1. It just says all your creatures just do that this turn. Either way, you're making a lot of bodies in play. Those bodies are going to make treasures and more bodies now, all on one card. My favorite card of the list comes in early on this list with Behind the Scenes. Behind the Scenes is 2 and a black for an enchantment. Creatures you control have Skulk, which means they can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. Pay 4 and a white. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Now, the +1/+1, don't really care about it. The giving all of my creatures Skulk, again, if you're in a token deck, yeah, what? I have 30 1/1s in play that not even pretty much, can't be blocked by anything else that's in play. Sorry about you. I really like this card in Doran the Siege Tower, as most of your creatures have 0 power and deal damage equal to their toughness. So this just gives all your creatures are unblockable and hit people like a monster truck, which we love. Have you seen the cool shit they do? This sounds like a bit. I watched that clip and immediately Googled, like, where's the nearest monster truck rally that happens? Pretty close. I'm in Indiana. Who would have thunk it? Everybody. Behind the Scenes, however, incredible card. Again, the pay 4 and a white to buff your board with 1/1, sure. If you need a mana sink, like if you've got an infinite mana combo in your deck, there's a sink, I guess. Let that sink in. I always make fun of people for being late on the memes, and it's true. You hate what you are. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, oh my god, he's so late on the memes, and I'm sitting here, let that sink in. Hilarious. Holy Avenger. Holy Avenger is 2 and a white for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature has double strike. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage, you may put an aura card from your hand onto the battlefield attached to it. Equipped for 2 and a white. There was a stream we did probably 4 or 5 months ago, okay, where I was talking about wanting to make a video about cards that teach players a rule in and of themselves. I was talking about a card that has 2 specifically distinct rules text that you think, hey, this feels like it should work this way, and the fact that both of these are on the same card leads me to believe that is how that rule works. Perfect example right here. A new player puts this on a creature and goes, this gets double strike. Ask the player across from him, hey, what's double strike mean? Oh, it means they deal combat damage twice. Oh, okay. Whenever this creature deals combat damage, attach an aura from your hand. Wait, since it has double strike, does that combat damage trigger happen twice? And then the person across is like, good job. That's exactly how it works. This is the type of card I'm looking for, okay? I want to make a video about cards like this. If you have other cards that are like this, put them in the comments, okay? People were replying in the live stream like, oh, how Tragic Slip teaches new players that like negative gets around indestructible. Not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Holy Avenger type stuff where they go, wait, the fact that these are both on the same card, it's gotta work like this. Sick of all the yap? Holy Avenger seems great in Galea, Kindler of Hope, as her whole thing is looking at the top of her library, playing auras and equipments off top, and either on her or other creatures. Probably on her, because you need room in the deck for enchantments and equipments. So you throw this on Galea, you go, hey, Galea's gonna crack you for 8, and also she's going to throw 2 auras on herself. Let's play a game, me and you and me, all right? Let's play a game of Weed Strain or Magic Card. All right. Our next card on the list is Blue Dream. Oh, all right. You got it right. That is a strain. Our next card on the list is Induced Amnesia. That's a magic card. Induced Amnesia is 2 and a blue for an enchantment. When Induced Amnesia enters the battlefield, target player exiles all cards from his or her hand face down, then draws that many cards. When Induced Amnesia is put into your graveyard, that player returns all the exiled cards to their hand. So it's a wheel that's stapled onto an enchantment that's targetable. That's pretty cool. So if you're in like a Nekasar deck, you can target people to have them lose life off this wheel. Always nice. If you're in an enchantment deck, this is a good way to filter out a current hand state you're not thrilled with for a new one. Or if you're a commander like Airtie the Corrupted, who can sacrifice enchantments, you can just drop this thing, exile your hand, draw that many, crack this thing, put the exiled stuff back in your hand, and look at that, you got a huge grip. It pretty much is a double your hand sized card. Our next card's weird. I'm gonna be honest, not a tribal player, especially elves. They're probably my least favorite tribe out of all of them. This seemed pretty good. And again, like I said, I'm not an elf player, so maybe it's not that good. Voice of the Woods is 3 and 2 green. I can hear all you elf ball players already. 3 and 2 fucking green. Does this guy think? This guy thinks we're made of mana. This guy thinks we're made of mana. That's such a funny response. Also, when you say like high CMC stuff and they're like, we're in an elf ball deck, dude. We're running 1 and 2 drops. I'm like, you're running like one of the only colors and tribes that just mass produces land. Voice of the Woods is 3 and 2 green for a 2/2. Tap 5 untapped elves you control. Put a 7/7 green elemental creature token with trample into play. Now, like I said, if you're in like a Lathril deck, you're going to be in the elf deck. You're making a ton of elf tokens. You'll be able to crank out 7/7s. But what I'm thinking is if you have access to Simic, if you're in green-blue, you have access to Intruder Alarm, which paired with this thing, you get infinite 7/7s. That's pretty sick. It's okay. Your boy loves green so much that 2 years of looking through obscure cards, who would have thunk it? I've seen a lot of the cool green ones, so now we're looking at whatever that was. Armed and Dangerous is a split card with the left side being armed for 1 and a red. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains double strike until end of turn at sorcery speed, and the right side being Dangerous for 3 and a green at sorcery speed. All creatures able to block target creature this turn do so. I think this isn't bad. A lot of the other stuff that does double strike on a spell is normally an instant. That's what makes it good, because they're like, oh, I won't block. Okay, in response, yeah, but in decks where you like know you're gonna have evasion, you still want to hit hard like Xyrus the Writhing Storm. I still think this is a pretty good card. The thing that got me super excited though is running this in general Marhalt El's Dragon. Never heard of this guy. 2 a red and a green, 4/4. Whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, it gets +3/+3 until end of turn for each creature blocking it. So if you throw the Armed and the Dangerous on a big trampler and swing it at the token deck, I'm sorry to say that token deck's probably dead. That token deck blocks with 10 1/1s. You go, yeah, my guy gets +30/+30 when it's blocked, not including all the other stuff you're probably going to block with that's giving additional +3/+3s. And it's also got double strike, so I'm going to go ahead and trample over a good 20 damage, 40 damage. Kind of sick. Kind of a funny meme deck to build, bust it out on somebody. Wasn't even good, dude. It's like play me again. It's like play me a second time. You know what I mean? It's like I hate decks like that, dude. It's like play me a second time and try to win, dude. Don't even got the deck anymore, bud. That's me. I build the deck, beat them, don't have it anymore. They come back the next time, try it again. I don't even have it. I'm out here looking like our next card, Necroplasm, being a 1 and 2 black 1/1. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a 1/1 counter on Necroplasm. At the beginning of your end step, destroy each creature with converted mana cost equal to the number of 1/1 counters on Necroplasm, and it's got Dredge 2.
Call this thing a toddler because this is a creature that self-wipes and digs through my trash cans. This is great in a default graveyard reanimation style deck like Mirren of Clan Neltoth. Yeah, you're just reanimating stuff. Mirren cost 4, so this creature, so Necroplasm's never gonna wipe Mirren. It'll send itself to the bin. You'll go ahead and start dredging so you can hit all these different creatures you're milling into the graveyard. I think that's great. I think it's very good in Marchesa the Black Rose because whenever a creature with a 1/1 counter you control dies, it comes back into play. So you just over and over again wipe every 1 drop, every 2 drop, every 3 drop, every 1 drop, every 2 drop, every 3 drop, every 1 drop, and again, Marchesa costs 4. You're never hitting Marchesa. You're just keeping everything small off the board, and Wizards is printing more and more low cost, really high value creatures. This is great. Our next card, Sunshot Militia, actually surprised me a little bit. I thought this would be ran in more decks. 1 in a red for a 1/3, tap 2 untapped artifacts, and you can also do creatures with this one, which is actually really good. Sunshot Militia deals 1 damage to each opponent, activate only as a sorcery. So first off, where my brain went was clue tokens, because as I learned in one of my recent videos, you don't have to tap clue tokens to use them, as opposed to treasure or food tokens. But this being a red card, it's kind of weird to find a clue token deck. But if you're in one like Malcolm the Eyes, where you're consistently making clue tokens, you've got good card draw from the clue tokens, and you've now got good player damage from Sunset Militia. Same goes for Fareed Enterprising Salvager, as she makes junk tokens, another token that does nothing, they just sack to other things. So still usable with Sunshot Militia and still sackable the same turn. Very good. And again, you can tap creatures to do this. So you're running Impact Tremors, you're making a ton of tokens in something like Jetmir again. You're now pinging. You can tap those tokens the turn they come out because Sunshot Militia is what's tapping those creatures, not the creatures themselves. So even in a token list, again, this is good. I can't find many cards that aren't good in token decks. Our next card, Circle of Affliction, is actually my second favorite card on the list because you'll see why. For 1 in a black, we get an enchantment. When it enters, choose a color. Whenever a source of the chosen color deals damage to you, you may pay 1. If you do, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Say it with me, everybody. Fuck you, Impact Tremors! Yeah, I'm gonna name red, so every time that Impact Tremors goes off over there, you freaking loser, I'm gonna Impact Tremor everybody. And I'm gonna gain back what you Impact Tremored me. Or maybe you just name black and you stop their Sir Conrad from damaging you. Oh, you're gonna Sir Conrad me. Well, I'm gonna pay 1 and gain 1 and Sir Conrad everyone and gain back the life that you Sir Conraded me. All those 1/1 elf tokens that you're making over there, I'm just gonna name green, and then every time each individual elf token, because those are all a green source deals damage to me, I can just dump mana into draining everybody and gaining back some of the damage you just dealt to me. So yeah. Ooh, I hope you like chitlins, because you're gonna be eating fat hog. Yeah, hog fat. That's not as funny. Moving on to easily one of the most unsuspecting cards I've ever had on a list, Argivian Find is 1 white for an instant. Return target artifact or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. Your instinct's probably very similar to mine when you read this. That seems kind of cheap, mana-wise. There's no way they haven't printed other stuff, though, that just, like, has bonuses as well. They haven't. The 2 closest cards in mana cost that do something similar are Mine Excavation, which is a 1 in a white sorcery that does it, and it also has Conspire, or Restoration Specialist, which is a 1 in a white 2/1 that you pay 1 white and sacrifice to do it. I'm not kidding. Go check on Scryfall. This is literally the cheapest way to hit both an artifact or an enchantment straight from grave back to your hand. Even Regrowth costs 2, and that's a pretty good going rate for it. This is also an instant, which is 1, always good, but 2 means it works with something like Isochron Scepter, so you could run a deck with Isochron, Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshare, and now Argivian Find to have like a cool Isochron Scepter package in that deck. I don't know how good this is. The fact that it's the only 1 drop or less that will do this for strictly that much mana, all the other ones have like built-in extra mana you have to pay. Thought I'd talk about it. And finally, our last card of the video is Far Fortune End Boss, who is a 2, a red, and a black 4/5 with Start Your Engines. If you have no speed, it starts at 1. It increases once a turn whenever an opponent loses life. Max speed is 4.
Whenever you attack, Far Fortune deals 1 damage to each opponent. If a source you control would deal damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage plus 1 to that opponent. This chick's pretty cool. And she's also like a very underran commander as well, so she might be in a future. So she easily might be in a future deck video. I think this girl's really good in a deck where you're just consistently pinging opponents. So if you're in something like Gev Scaled Scorch, being a black and a red 3/2, ward, pay 2 life, other creatures you control enter with an additional 1/1 counter on them for each opponent who lost life this turn, and whenever you cast a lizard, Gev deals 1 damage to target opponent. Pair Far Fortune with this. Every time you're attacking with lizards, people are losing 1. Once you're at max speed, every time you're attacking, everyone's losing 1, then an additional 1. Then every time you're playing lizards, opponents are losing 1, plus an additional 1. Very similar logic for Kuja Genome Sorcerer from the Final Fantasy set, producing the 0/1 black wizard tokens that whenever you cast a non-creature spell, deal 1 damage to each opponent. Pair Far Fortune with these wizards, and that gets out of hand super quick. If you're in just like a ping deck, like if you just like the creatures that tap to deal 1, this is also really good. This would be great in Gearson Starn if you could run it. If Gearson Starn or this fit into each other, that would be great. But again, pinger deck. This is fantastic. Impact Tremors is pinging for an extra 1 now every time. And like I said, as a commander, throw a bunch of pings in her. That seems really good.
Visions of Dread, and let me sell you this, all right? What's that one guy say? Let me sell you this card. For 2 and a black, sorcery speed, target opponent puts a creature card of their choice from their graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Flashback for 8 and 2 black. This spell costs X less to cast this way, where X is the greatest mana value of a commander you own on the battlefield or in the command zone. So if you're running a big boy, you could get this thing out for 2 mana for a second time. That's pretty good. So let me sell you this card. All right, we can be honest with each other, right? We're playing casual, Commander, okay? We're not trying to win as fast as possible. We're trying to play a fun game of Magic with a cool deck we built. That means 1 of 2 things. 1, most casual games go longer than other games. 2, most of the time there's going to be 1 arch enemy at the table because we have so much time to gather resources. That makes Visions of Dread really, really good. Let me ask you, how many times in a Commander game has someone gotten out of control, gotten out of hand, gotten something on board that needs dealt with? If your answer was all the time, I believe you. Follow-up question. How many times when that happens, is there a creature in the graveyard that could fulfill what you need done on the battlefield? If you said far less, but quite often, thank you, dude. You're so honest, man. I appreciate it. Someone's got a Platinum Angel sitting over there, okay? Somehow no one has a way to deal with it. Now you can play Visions of Dread, target the person that has a Reclamation Sage in their graveyard and go, hey, want to pick that Rec Sage so we can get rid of that Platinum Angel? Thanks. Oh, do they have a Smothering Tithe on their side of the board? Hey, Rec Sage player, we're gonna need you again, buddy. Also, flashback, do that again. And all this isn't even to bring up if an opponent just has 1 banger creature in their graveyard, which can happen a lot. I actually really dig this. I think I'm gonna try this out in Taval because of the exact situations we just talked about. Next, Gandalf's Sanction, dude. This thing's kind of tough, honestly. 1, a blue, a red, sorcery. It deals X damage to target creature, where X is the number of instants and sorcery cards in your graveyard. Excess damage is dealt to the creature's controller instead. Yeah. If you're in a Spellslinger deck, 1, you're gonna copy this thing more than likely. So 2 of these, just at their lowest function, pretty good removal in a Spellslinger deck for creatures. This will take out most problem creatures on board, and that's not even bringing up how many creatures are low toughness, just come out early, annoying ass value engines nowadays. Oh, did I crack that Esper Sentinel for 12 damage, and now 11 of it's gonna carry over, and I have doubled, and I have damage doublers in play? Yeah, sorry. You can also Sharpie the flavor text to say crack split, hand, and head, which is just good. Grade A comedy. Now come here, you listen to me. Now you listen to me. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think this next one's that great, but it's super interesting. It's also in like under 1,000 deck. Graven Dominator is 4 and a white for a 4/4, flying, haunt. When this card is put into a graveyard from play, remove it from the game, haunting target creature. When Graven Dominator comes into play, or the creature it haunts is put into the graveyard, each other creature becomes a 1/1 until end of turn. I think this is kind of cool. You play this in like an Aristocrats deck where you're running sack outlets, and then you just like use it as a contingency plan. Like if someone tries to swing at you with something big, you can just crack the Graven Dominator, have it haunt one of your things, and then crack the thing that you're having it haunt to make everything a 1/1 until end of turn. It's kind of a weird like pseudo fog effect built into a 4/4 flying. You know where I might try this? I'm gonna put this in Arna Kennerud Sky Captain. because all my stuff's small tokens anyway. They all have 1/1 counters on them, so if they become 1/1s from Graven Dominator, I don't care. They're still going to be big. Plus, Graven Dominator itself is a 4/4 flying. That's going to be okay. I feel like this is pretty good. You drop Graven Dominator, turn everything into a 1/1. My stuff stays big because I have 1/1 counters. Swing that turn. Keep Graven up for the haunt ability. I'm trying it. I'll let you. I will report back and let you know how this goes. Sentinel Sarah Lions is 3 red and a white for a 4/4 haste. As long as an artifact entered the battlefield under your control this turn, creatures you control get +2/+2. Whenever Sentinel Sarah Leons and at least 2 other creatures attack, she deals damage equal to the number of artifacts you control to target player. Now, if you have a commander that produces artifact tokens, like let's say Anim Pakal, you could also have this be the commander and go like a treasure route with professional facebreakers, academy manufacturers, stuff like that. Fallout set, I kind of was whatever about it, so missed a bunch of stuff. Apparently so did all of us, so it's not bad. Hardened Tactician's another one that I'm really considering for my Arna token +1/+1 counter deck. And yeah, the low deck number is probably just because it's from a newer set, but honestly with the speed we're getting sets, dude, yeah, sorry. Some stuff gets overlooked. I'm going to talk about it still. For 1 a black and a white, we get a 2/4, pay 1, sack a token, draw a card. That's actually a really good engine right there. I'm hesitant about it because I don't really like sack outlets in my Arna deck because I'm trying to make my tokens really big and bash phase with them, so sacking them. Not really what I'm trying to do here. But if you're in the token deck, you're in the Gave Guru Spores deck, you're in the Alela Artful Provocateur deck, you know, I think it's pretty good if you need like a piece of card draw. Plus, that artwork is like some of the dopest shit I've ever seen in my life. So I swear I'm not making this entire list based off my Arna and Taval deck, but yeah, this next one I'm probably going to put in Taval. Rites of Spring is 1 and a green. Sorcery, discard any number of cards from your hand, search your library for that many basic land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle. Now, why is this good? Well, if I got 2, 3, 4 big creatures stuck in hand, I now have a card that can just let me ditch them into grave, which in a reanimator deck is actually really useful. And then replace them with lands so I can guarantee hit my land drops for the next 2, 3, 4 turns. Again, like we said earlier, we can all like theoretically view our cards like we're all super spikes that are trying to win the game as fast as possible. Sometimes you have to acknowledge you're playing casual commander and play into it, dude. This is actually going to be pretty decent. Speaking of pretty freaking decent, we got Whip Silk and Shimmering Wings because they both do very similar things. They're both 1 blue or green. For an aura, they enchant a creature to give reach or flying, respectively, and then you can pay a green or a blue to bounce them back to your hand. Now, in a bubble, these seem not great. When you pair them with any of the when you play an enchantment card, like let's say Sigil of the Empty Throne. Oh, yeah, 2 mana, make a 4/4, bounce it to your hand, play it again, bounce it to your hand, play it. Just keep doing it all day. I've had a couple of you reach out about these cards, so shouts out to you. Okay, I'm gonna get ahead of it. The next card is from Final Fantasy, okay? I know newer cards have low deck counts. I get it, guys. Could you just let me have this one, please? I've had a rough week, all right? So can you let me have this one? My family cat we've had for years is nearing the end. My fatty liver's flaring up again. And worst of all my Are You Gay ads have turned into How Gay Are You ads. So shit's just sucked, you know? Summoner Sending is 1 and a white for an enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature from a graveyard. If you do, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Put a 1/1 counter on it if the exiled card's mana value is 4 or greater. Again, we're playing casual. It's gonna go long. Like having an engine that just turns your creatures that go to the bin into 1/1s that are potentially 2/2 flyers feels very like Bitter Blossom-esque. Sure, it's got more hoops to jump through, but it's also like got the 1/1 counter thing. Like that's good. Also, might put it in my Arna Kennerid Sky Captain deck. Anyway, our next card suggested by G. Monaldo over on Patreon. If you want to suggest a card for these lists, maybe consider becoming a patron or a YouTube member, either of which can submit to some chats you gain access to where you can submit some of your favorite obscure cards. G. Monaldo recommends Knight of Dusk's Shadow, which is 1 and a black for a 2/2 menace. Your opponents can't gain life. Pay 1 and a black to give it +1/+1 until end of turn. I love a good mud breathing? Sludge breathing? As G. Monaldo says, though, 10k decks, very cheap, opponents can't gain life, and I couldn't agree more with all 3 of those. Again, we're playing casual, so if you're in some kind of like weird black stacksy deck where you're trying to just like make game actions a little bit harder, like opponents not being able to gain life. I wish this thing had protection from white though, because I'm a sucker for a black knight and a white knight, but I digress. Let me tell you about Muse Vortex. X and 2 blue, sorcery, exile the top X cards of your library. You may cast an instant or sorcery with mana value X or less from among them without paying their mana cost. You kinda already paid the mana cost, but I'll look past it. Then put the exiled instant or sorcery cards that weren't cast this way into your hand, and the rest onto the bottom of your library in any order. That's right, the rest of the instants and sorceries go to your hand, baby. Am I missing something? If you're in a Spellslinger deck, this feels like a pretty good card draw card. It's a Mind Spring with like a cast a spell for free stapled onto it. And most of the time, they just put the rest of the cards on the bottom or some stupid shit like that. This puts the rest of the instants and sorceries in your hand. That's sick. I wish this was an instant so you could do some cool counter magic plays, but it's whatever. It's whatever. I've seen the Bloomborough like Portent card where you get to like look at the top X and play something for free card played. Not a lot, but a little bit. If you're in a Spellslinger deck, I'm kind of sitting here like, run a Muse Vortex, buddy. Hey, Budzo. Throw one of these in there. Let me tell you about a guy I know named Delirium Skeens. Or Skynes. Skeins? Shit. 2 and a black sorcery, each player discards 3 cards. Oh yeah, is this the room where I go in to fuck myself? Thank you, appreciate it. How good is this? I have no idea. Like, if you're in the tier grid deck, you're already kind of like, you know, hat on a hat here, to be honest. No, honestly, if you're in the tier grid deck, it's really disgusting. Don't put this in. Honestly underplayed because it's discard, and nobody likes discard. But I know some of you freaks out there like it, so here's a little slice of discard for you. Are you happy, you freaks? Okay, Mourner's Shield. This is another one where I'm like, I'm not sure how good it is. It seems okay if you're in a Pillow Fort deck. Pillow Fort, dude. I don't know why you guys hate when I say that word. Pillow Fort, it's a strategy. Go to EDH, type in PILL. Oh my god, what is that? Oh, what is this? There's not a chance. There's not a chance Nick's right. Yeah, okay, buddy. Nick's right. That'll happen when DaBaby, Big X, The Plug, and Mexican OT drop a song together. Mourner's Shield is 4 for an artifact. When it comes into play, you may remove target card in a graveyard from the game, and you can pay 2 and tap it. Prevent all damage that would be dealt this turn by a source of your choice that shares a color with the imprinted card. I don't know how good it is. I know that like the Circle of Protection cards only prevent 1 instance of damage, and Mourner's Shield says this turn. So if you, let's say, exile a red card, you'll be able to tap this and turn off someone's impact tremors, let's say. That's pretty decent, actually. Or if there's a Voltron deck at the table, exile any color card from a graveyard that shares a color with their commander, and then prevent that commander from dealing damage to you with Mourner's Shield. How good is this? I'm not sure. I think it's okay. I think it's cool enough to like be ran more than it's ran, so here it is. And then finally we've got Blitz of the Thunder Raptor, being 1 in a red for an instant that deals damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to the number of instants or sorceries in your graveyard, and if it would die, exile it instead. Again, if you're in a spell-heavy Spellslinger deck, I think this is actually a pretty good piece of creature removal. Which, let's be honest, if you're in mono red outside of Chaos Warp and a couple other cards, you're gonna take a Lightning Bolt, or you're gonna take this to take out some creatures on the board. Rob the Archives, even if he does hate Impulse Draw. Rob the Archives is 1 in a red for a sorcery. Casualty 1. As you cast this spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power 1 or greater. When you do, copy this spell. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. Yeah, I'd like to refer to my last video where I said take out Into the Wilds from that deck. This is exactly why take out Into the Wilds from that deck. This is 2 mana to potentially get 4 cards exiled that you can play until end of turn. Save image as. Definitely gonna put that in a deck. If you're in an exile deck and you have a consistent access to tokens from your commander, like let's say PNLR Console of Revival, or maybe a Faldorn Dreadwolf Herald. Oh, yeah, they both make tokens for casting stuff out of exile. Yeah, we're definitely going to have something to casualty. We're going to be exiling a ton of cards, making more tokens. Yuck. Thanks, Dr. Odd. This is one of the only times I got good news from a doctor. Appreciate you. I really like Casualty. So, bit of a weird one that I do like. Sequester Stash is a land. It enters untapped. Taps for a waste. You can pay 4 and tap it, sacrifice it. Put the top 5 cards of your library into your graveyard, and you may put an artifact card from your graveyard on top of your library. Land that enters untapped that can give me a bunch of mill. As a graveyard player, I like this. Also, it can return an artifact from my graveyard on top of my library, so in Taval, I could potentially get a Taval trigger off of that as well. The artifact thing's kind of like whatever. I think just having access to a pay 4, sack the land, mill 5 cards in a graveyard deck, especially in casual, I think this is pretty good. That's a good little chunk of mill on a land. Also, artifact on top of your deck, it could interact with stuff like Skill Borrower. I don't know how much we care about Skill Borrower, but there's that. Let's talk about one of my favorite MTG Arena cards to build around, Phyrexian Fleshgorger. I think this thing's just good. There's so many different ways to just absolutely manipulate this thing. For 7 colorless, we get a 7/5 Menace, Lifelink, Ward, pay life equal to Phyrexian Fleshgorger's power. The thing is, this has also got Prototype, so we could pay 1 and 2 black to make it a 3/3 with the same abilities. This card at its base level is a 7/5 with Menace and Lifelink, so if we blink this thing, it comes back as a 7/5 even if we paid 3 for it. If we feign death it and then sacrifice it, boom, we got a free 7/5 Menace Lifelink. Pay life equal to its power, it's pretty good. That's fun. Also, just a 3-drop, 3/3 Lifelink Menace, pay life equal to its power Ward is just a good card. That's actually a great card. Actually, you know where I'm going to put this? I'm putting this in Arna. I'm putting this in Arna Kennerud. A giant thing that just gets better. I put 1/1 counters on it. I double those counters with Arna. If anyone wants to target Phyrexian Fleshgorger, they're probably going to lose the game past a certain point. This is gross in Arna. Actually, picking one up immediately. That's going to be, I don't know why I haven't put that in there yet. That's going to be gross. You know what else is gross? Sentinel Tower. A 4-drop artifact. Whenever an instant or sorcery spell is cast during your turn, Sentinel Tower deals damage to any target equal to 1 plus the number of instants and sorceries cast before that spell this turn. Am I missing something here? Spellslinger decks. You're slinging spells. I'm going to ponder, hit an opt, maybe preordain. Oh yeah, you took 6, then 5, then 4, then 3, then 2. You took like 20 damage from me casting 6 spells or something like that. That seems good to me. Am I wrong? Armory Automaton is super interesting. I have no idea how good this card is. I don't think it's that good. It does do something incredibly unique, so I wanted to talk about it. 3 for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may attach any number of target equipments to it. Control of the equipment doesn't change. If your opponent has a pair of lightning greaves over there, okay, and you drop this, their lightning greaves will get attached to your Armory Automaton, but they still control the lightning greaves. So during their turn, they can go ahead and pay the equipment cost and unequip it and equip it to one of their creatures again. Go for it. But for the time being, that's ours. So if you have the right table, and I don't know what table that is, you have like 3 different Voltron decks across from you, and you drop this, that's a scary robot. I don't know how you make this thing work. I don't think there is a way to make it work. RuPaul's out there crying somewhere. Weirdly enough, if you are in a very specific Arna deck, this is kind of cool because you can make a bunch of tokens of equipments and then attach all the token equipments to Armory Automaton when you play it. That's kind of cool. Just a cool card. Moving on to some new tech for my Taval the Balance Scale deck. Deep Fathom Echo. I'm a fan. 2 a green and a blue for a 4/4. At the beginning of combat on your turn, Deep Fathom Echo explores. Then you may have it become a copy of another target creature you control until end of turn. And to explore, you reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand if it's a land. Otherwise, put a 1/1 counter on this creature, put it back on top, or in your graveyard. Oh, or in your graveyard, huh? So in Taval, we get a 4/4 that becomes copies of the best things we control that scales with 1/1 counters and puts cards in our graveyard? Bah, I'll give it a go. Also, make sure we're hitting our land draws. This is just good. Moving on, I want to talk about Dragonspark Reactor. This 1 in a red artifact has whenever Dragonspark Reactor or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, put a charge counter on Dragonspark Reactor. Pay 4, sacrifice Dragonspark Reactor. It deals damage equal to the number of charge counters on it to target player, and that much damage to up to 1 target creature. I don't know why my dyslexic brain always read that it only did damage to creatures. It also does player. So here it is. That's disgusting. Oh yeah, it doesn't say non-token, so if you just make a shit ton of treasures, clues, food, anything like that, this will just get a ton of counters, and then you just crack it. So this could be a win con in a ton of different decks. Prosper Tome Bound. You're making treasures, boom. Just have this thing passively ticking up, ticking up, ticking up. Someone tries to remove it with something, you're like, I'm gonna go ahead and crack it in response, actually. Funnily enough, this is actually killer in Kilo Apogee Mine, the deck, the Precon commander we talked about in the last video. Nuts in there. You're just proliferating and playing a bunch of artifacts anyway, so there's ways to double counters in that deck too, specifically charge counters, so you can get this thing up to like, oh, I have it at 6, oh, it's at 7, oh, it's at 8, yeah, I'm gonna drop this, double it up to 16, and then go ahead and add 117. How much you at, buddy? Shadow of the Grave is an incredibly niche card, but it's also really powerful if you're in the right deck, so thought I'd shout it out. For 1 in a black, we get an instant. It's crazy that it's an instant. Return to your hand all cards in your graveyard that you cycled or discarded this turn. Oh, every wheel deck ever wants this. I'm just gonna Windfall and have everyone discard and draw for the most cards discarded, and then play Shadow of the Grave and draw all those cards back. Sorry. I'm gonna Faithless Looting into Shadow of the Grave. That's not even that good, but it's okay. Rapid Augmenter is a card I've had sitting in my binder. I have not really looked it up since I bought this precon. I thought there's no way this card's underplayed. It's way too strong. Turns out it is. 1 a blue and a red for a 1/3 haste. Whenever another creature you control with base power 1 enters, it gains haste until end of turn. Also, whenever another creature you control enters, if it wasn't cast, put a 1/1 counter on Rapid Augmenter, and Rapid Augmenter can't be blocked this turn. Oh, so when we make those 8/1/1 Krenko tokens, we put 8 1/1 counters on Rapid Augmenter, and then it can't be blocked. Again, card that is so good it could be a win con in a lot of lists, so it's also in a precon. I totally get why a bunch of precon cards get overlooked. This one definitely did. Oh, put this in your Xyrus deck, drop a wheel, everyone draws 7 cards, you just flood the board with a shit ton of 1/1 snakes, make your Rapid Augmenter huge, make it unblockable, make your snakes have haste. Ugh. Put this card in your decks. It's so gross. But so is Stormfleet Negotiator. For 2 and a blue, we get a 2/2 flying. Whenever Stormfleet Negotiator attacks, each player reveals the top card of their library. For each non-land card revealed this way, you create a map token. Then each player draws a card. A map token has 1 tap, sacrifice this artifact. Target creature you control explores, activate as a sorcery. Nice little group huggy kind of card draw engine vibe, which I like. A way to make a ton of map tokens if people are hitting non-land cards. All built onto a 2/2 flyer. I actually don't hate this thing. I was considering running this in Taval for a second. Creating maps, good way to get some stuff in the graveyard as well as buff some of my creatures up. But it's not really what I'm going for in that deck. Funnily enough, it actually might be pretty decent in Arna, seeing that map tokens can provide 1/1 counters. This is a 2/2 flyer, so if I put counters on this, I can start doubling those as well. I don't know. It's an interesting card. I definitely think it's cool. As a Reanimator player, I got to talk about Unsealed and Necropolis. For 2 and a black, we get an instant speed. Each player mills 3 cards. Then you return up to 2 creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. You know how many creatures reanimate stuff? A good amount. You know how many cards reanimate anything from any graveyard? A good amount. So having each player mill 3 for 3 mana, I'm not good at math, but we're getting 12 cards in graveyard. Plus, returning 2 creatures from our graveyard doesn't even have to be from among the milled cards. And we don't even have to. If we just have a bunch of big stuff, we can just leave it. On top of all that, instant speed. So you really aren't wasting much mana here. Just using it during someone else's turn, passes to you, everyone's graveyard's full. Oh, you just hit something massive on the opponent. Cast a Dance of the Dead. Get that thing back under your control. Not to even mention if you're in like a mono black Valgavoth deck because you're a monster, literally. This is gross in that list, so here you go. You probably already know about it. So Body Count is a card I'm fairly sure I talked about before, whether that was way back in the daily card highlight days or on one of the lists a while back. There's going to be some repeats on some of these lists. I think that it's been long enough that we have a bigger audience now. Let's show some love of some of the older stuff. Body Count is one of those repeats because, my God, 2 and a black for an instant with Spectacle 1, which means you can cast it for 1 if an opponent lost life this turn. Draw a card for each creature that died under your control this turn. Like, even on someone else's turn, just like 2 and a black if someone board wipes to be like, oh, I'm going to draw just an insane amount of cards because of my tokens. That's insane. Or I could just smack someone in the face with a bunch of tokens if a ton of them died during combat because they blocked. Drop a Body Count for 1 black, draw a ton of cards. I see like no reason in not swapping out one of my card draw pieces for this in a token deck. I feel like you should feel the same. In Search of Greatness is a card I have to talk about. I know what you're going to say. Nick, that says 15.8k decks. That's kind of 15k. It's my video. It's on here. It's going to be on here, all right? For 2 green, an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may cast a permanent spell from your hand with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the highest converted mana cost among other permanents you control, without paying its mana cost. If you don't, scry 1. So it's got a little contingency plan. I love cards that have like a little backup, like, hey, if it didn't work out, you still get a little something, you still get scry 1. But to put it in crayon-eating terms for you, you got a Lanalore Elf in play. Next turn, you get to cheat that Grizzly Bear into play for free. You can also just think much bigger here. If you got a 5-drop, you get to cheat into play a 6-drop. You get a 6-drop, you get to cheat into play a 7-drop. I'm looking at you, Mia, with your Prime Speaker Xanathar deck. Yeah, here's another chain piece. Actually, you probably already run this in the deck. But if you don't, check it out. Change of plans?
We talked about this one way back in the day. I'm talking about it again because every time I see this card, I go, oh, you know, like friggin' X, 1 and a blue for an instant. Each of X target creatures you control, connive. You may have any number of them phase out. Oh yeah, this is going in Arna. It's actually probably going to go in Taval as well. A way to protect my tokens in Taval without them going away. That's always good. A way to protect Taval. A way to potentially put things in the graveyard in that deck. Buff up some of my things. Those are all good things. In Arna, a way to protect things with 1/1 counters on them without them losing the 1/1 counters. That's very useful. And then Connive, another way to get 1/1 counters. So Nick's Lotus list becoming a put into Vol and Arna list, it couldn't be me. Couldn't happen. I want to talk about Gleeful Demolition, damn it. Okay? I get it. It's fun to play an Ornithopter turn 1, then play Gleeful Demolition in like Standard and Sealed or in whatever weird little format you like, okay? And then go, ooh, it went brr. It's funny. This is just good artifact removal. Your opponent does not get the 1/1s because you only make the 1/1s if the thing you destroyed was yours. 1 mana to blow up an artifact? That's going to be a good going rate. That's infinitely better than a Shatter. Sure, it's not instant speed. I really don't give a shit. With the backup case of being like, hey, I might want to crack one of my mana rocks on turn 7 or 8 and get a couple chump blockers for that big thing across from me. We're playing casual Commander, all right? This isn't bad. You want to see something that really isn't bad, though? Spirit Link? Ooh. Let me explain. Yeah, you'll get it in a second. 1 and a white, enchant creature. Enchant creature, whenever enchant creature deals damage, you gain that much life. Yeah, it doesn't have to be combat damage. And when Spirit Loop is put into your graveyard, it gets returned to your hand. So if you're in something like, I don't know, Ragast, where you can do 3 damage to each opponent, that's really gross. Or if you're just in the enchantment deck, you know what I mean? You're gonna probably run a bunch of auras and ways to buff your stuff and make them huge. Throw a Spirit Loop on something, gain a bunch of life. If someone deals with it, Spirit Loop goes back to your hand so you can play it again, trigger all your enchantresses. Win-win. Tributary Instructor is actually really, really good, being 3 and a green for a 4/4 mentor. So when it attacks, you can put a 1/1 counter on something that's also attacking with less power than it. And whenever a creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it dies, we draw a card. That's really good. Just that passive ability. I would run in Arna. If this was 3 and a white for a 4/4, whenever a creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it died, draw a card, I would run the shit out of that. This has a built-in mentor. Green players, you're lucking out, dude. And I've been talking about it so much. If you want to check out the Arna deck, it's in the top right corner. I've got absolutely no shame. This is me posing for my thumbnail in my next video. Come at me. We've got Marchesa's Decree being 3 and a black for an enchantment. When it comes into play, it introduces Monarch, and whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, that creature's controller loses 1 life. That's right, Sharon. If they want to take this Monarch away, they're going to have to pry it through my cold, dead fingertips. Also, if you're just in a Pillow Fort deck, this is incredible. Run your Propagandas, run your Ghostly Prisons, run your Marchesa's Decrees, get some card draw from the Monarch. If any token deck tries to come at you or any go wide deck, tell them to right off. Speaking of can't go wrong, Bladegraft Aspirant might be one of the most stacked commons I've ever seen in my life. I think we might have talked about this at one point. I can't remember if it was in a deck or something, but my god, dude. 2 and a red for a 2/3 menace. Equipment spells you cast 1 less to cast. Activate abilities of equipments you cost that target Bladegraft Aspirant cost 1 less to activate. Do you want to equip your stuff for cheaper? Do you want to play your equipments for less? Do you want to have a built-in evasive creature to put those equipments on? Bladegraft Aspirant. I guess I just wanted to say, like, why not uncommon, Wizards? And I think we're going to finish it there because I wanted to talk about Blight Mamba, but a 1/1 with Infect that can keep regenerating over and over again is something that I just don't think we need to see more of on the board. So, we're finished. Moonlit Meditation. This 2 and a blue enchantment aura enchants an artifact or creature we control, and the first time we would create 1 or more tokens, you instead make that many tokens that are copies of that non-land permanent instead. We got tons of clones if you're in the treasure deck. We got tons of clones if you're in the clue deck. I said we got lots of clones if you're in the treasure deck. If you make them, I will make clones for it. Are you in the token deck? You're in Adrix and Nev? You're in the Marnius Calgar list? This seems ridiculous. There's also kind of a cool interaction with stuff like Coat of Arms, because you could make a ton of copies of the same thing. So if you're like in a tribal deck, I think this is already going to be just like inherently powerful with some of the effects you have in that deck. Of course, you got to bring up Avenger Zendikar when you talk about a card like this. Throw this on Avenger Zendikar, and then every time you make tokens, you're making Avenger of Zendikars. Yeah.
Sure.
But where I really like this is if you run a token deck, throw one of these in there, and then throw a Kaiga the Tide Star in there, and then have a little play where you throw this on Kaiga, and then you make like 5-10 tokens, make 5-10 Kaigas, sack them all, gain control of 5 or 10 things on the battlefield. I like stuff like that too. It always blows me away how hot I get when I'm recording. So sweatshirt after one card is already gone. I think that might be a new record. It is a new record, yes. The next one might seem a little weird. By invitation only. This 3 and 2 white sorcery has choose a number between 0 and 13. Each player sacrifices that many creatures. Very good in a board in a go wide deck. There's some of those cards that are like destroy all creatures with mana cost 3 or higher, or destroy all creatures with power 3 or higher and stuff like that, which I think are good in go wide decks. There are some scenarios where you'll have creatures that are higher CMC that you really don't want to be destroying with those, or you might have creatures that are smaller power and toughness, but you've buffed them up with like Anthem effects, and that board wipe now hits those creatures. I think this is like a perfect board wipe for those decks. You tell me that if you made a go wide deck, you have not hit over 13 creatures on your battlefield, like 60-70% of your games. Just name whatever the next smallest number is. That guy over there's got 6 creatures on his board. I'll name 6. Everybody sacks 6. Oh, everyone's board's gone and I still have 6 creatures, and I got to pick no matter the mana cost or power or toughness. Yeah, that'll win you a game. Literally, wiping out people's decks, wiping out people's boards of any blockers in a go wide deck. That's really easy to regulate how many creatures you want to be getting rid of. And it also gets around indestructible. So if you're like versing a lot of artifact decks, a lot of Darksteel stuff going on, this will be very useful at getting rid of some of those big boy creatures that are just Up next is Depth Shaker Titan, being 5 and 2 red for a 5/5. When this creature enters the battlefield, any number of non-creature artifacts you control become 3/3 artifact creatures. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. Each artifact creature you control has melee, trample, and haste. I'm just gonna roll the old footage on this one. If you're in the treasure deck, if you're in the clue deck. Yeah, again, if you're in the food deck, the treasure deck, the clue deck, the blood deck, the junk deck, any of those weird little token artifact decks, this is fantastic. You just get to animate all of them into 3/3s that have trample, haste, and melee. Sure. They also have to be sacked, so if you are in a treasure, clue, food deck that also runs stuff like the Wellsprings, this could be pretty good just to get some like sack effects on stuff after you're done swinging with them. And I don't know about you guys, I run a seismic shit ton of mana rocks in all my decks, so it kind of hit me that like, oh, I mean, you do kind of have to be in one of those artifact token decks, but this thing can animate like a shit ton of just like card draw engines, like Idol of Oblivion, mana rocks like Mind Stone, and just happen to put a bunch of power on the board. But mainly the whole food, treasure, clue thing. Like if you're in like a Rocco Street Chef deck where you're just dishing out food tokens, yeah, you might be able just to stack up enough of them to be like, oh, I'm just gonna go ahead and completely switch strategies and animate all my food tokens and go for the fucking moon and sausage party your ass. Sorry. Your video has been demonetized because you said, quote, sausage party their ass. Up next is Repay in Kind. This 5 and 2 black sorcery has each player's life total become the lowest life total among all players. I'm gonna say the thing. I don't care that it costs 7. There's certain decks where you can just play high CMC stuff. I know you don't like to hear that. So like in a control deck where games are gonna go long, you can control how long you're staying in the game most of the time. This seems pretty good. You just sit behind a little pillow fort, a little control. Maybe if you want to run stacks and be that guy, wall, and just don't get touched by the opponents. Wait for someone to get really low and then be like, oh yeah, all of our lives become 4. And I'm easily the hardest thing to attack at this table. I'm just saying, it seems okay. I also kind of like this in a group slug deck where you're just slowly pinging people with stuff, where you've got stuff like Hissing Iguanar that's like, oh, you had something die? My condolences. Take one to your face. Where any game action makes people lose life, you just play this, and then when people start getting low enough at like 6, and then you know, when people start getting in like the single digits, drop one of these, everyone goes to single digit numbers, and you still got your board full of group slug stuff going on, all of which affects the opponents and not you. So it's like, do it, pussy. It being any game action, push, and then you simply drowned these shalanks. So if you're in a deck like Volgavoth Horror of Souls, where you're doing the group slug thing, or you're in a deck like a Layla Cunning Conqueror, where you're doing the control thing, using fairies to bring home games when people get to like lower and lower health, I think setting everybody to that lower and lower health is pretty good in those decks.
Hey, especially if you're playing casual. I don't know if it's hit you guys yet. I'm gonna put it in the banner at some point. You know what? Not even at some point. I'm gonna do it tonight. We talk about casual commander here. I'm sorry. Look, it's not that I think I'm better than you. We just talk about casual commander here. I get it. I could almost play an omniscience for that. Moving on, we've got Rune Chanter's Pike, being 2 for an equipment that equips for 2. Equipped creature has first strike and gets +X/+O, where X is the number of instants and sorcery cards in your graveyard. This is a good one. When I used to play Standard, I really liked this card. I've never been a Spellslinger player, so I never really played it to its full potential. Still played that shit. Oh yeah, you better believe there were a couple Friday Night Magics where I brought the white weenie deck and threw a couple Rune Chanter's Pikes so that my, one removal spell I ran in the deck would give it maybe +2/+0 on first strike. We tried it out. Didn't do nothing. But if you're playing Commander and you're in the Spellslinger list, and most importantly, your Commander is an evasive creature or makes evasive creatures, I think this is really good at ending games. Sue me. If you're in Kaikar the Wind's Fury, yeah, you're Spellslinging, you're making 1/1 flyers, it is a flyer. Attaching this to either one of those while you're just popping off Spellslinging, I think you're probably going to be bashing people with a pretty big bird. No sesame. Or seriously, something as simple as Talrand. You're making 2/2 Drakes whenever you cast instants and sorceries. Oh, so you're casting instants and sorceries. So they're in the bin, and you're making flyers. You can't make the horse drink, dude. This next one's for you, guy in the comments that says we need to talk about more red cards. I've got you. Avatar of Slaughter is 6 and 2 red for an 8/8. All creatures have double strike and attack each turn if able. Oh, word? So I get it. You look at this card, you go, yeah, we're doing a creature deck thing, dude. We're going to be trying to get the double strike on our attackers, giving it to other people. It's going to be chaos. You're running a chaos deck or a creature deck. And new. Love this in a goad deck where you're making other people's stuff swing at each other and not you. Yeah, really good. You now kiss with your fist while this thing sits in the corner. I think that's good. I also think this is really good in a Jeskai Pillow Fort deck, which I have no idea what commander I would bring up after this for that example, where you're just sitting behind stuff like Propaganda, Ghostly Prison. People are going to have a very hard time attacking you with this stuff in play. There's plenty of other stuff, Crawl Space, there's tons of the stuff. Also, I get far too many comments of people saying Pillow Fort, Pillow Fort, Pillow Fort. What the fuck's Pillow Fort? Why do you keep saying Pillow Fort? What's Pillow Fort? Go to EDH Rec, type in Pillow Fort. Been a thing since Commander's been around, buddy. Don't know what to tell you. So if you're in a deck like Nelly Barrica, where you're just dishing out goads left and right with that bad girl, honestly, kind of a cool commander. I didn't notice the first time she came out. I'm not saying I'm going to build it because it's still Boros, but I might build it on Moxfield. Maybe. Or if you're in the Pillow Fort deck, say it with me, Pramicon. Yeah, the big wall that forces people to attack in one direction. The wall that makes you attack in one direction. It's big boy, man. The wall that makes you attack in one direction? No boy band. Yeah, anything like that. This card's gonna do some work. I'm convinced of it. It costs 8 mana. It's also an 8/8. I don't know. It's a lot of mana. It's also casual. Get over yourself, dude. Some stuff's just for fun. Third deck idea, put it in a Reanimator Goad deck, where you run all the reanimation cards that can grab other people's stuff, and you use Goad, so combat forces those creatures to go to the graveyard, and you can use Avatar or Slaughter to make sure more creatures go to the graveyard and more people take more damage. The next card I want to talk about is Kellen Joins Up, being a green, a white, and a blue for a legendary enchantment. When Kellen Joins Up enters the battlefield, you may exile a non-land card with mana value 3 or less from your hand. If you do, it becomes plotted, meaning you can cast it on a future turn at sorcery speed for free. And whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. I'm thinking this is good in a legend deck or a token deck, or a legend token deck. If you've got a Sisay deck where you're triggering stuff up like Bernard and you're just making tokens, doing the legend thing. You also run small 3-drop legends like Lorana the Third Path, so you can utilize Kellen Joins Up first ability. I think it's kind of cool. I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about this card. Why I think it will end games is because you're going to be putting this in, like I said, the token legend deck. You're going to be going wide, and then every time a legend hits the board, your whole board gets a 1/1 counter, not just legends. So that's the token aspect. That's why that becomes important. So find a bunch of legends that make tokens, make a legend shell around those type of legends, throw Kellen Joins Up in there. Yeah, that'll end games for sure. I'm going to be honest. The next one, I feel bad about forgetting because
It was one of my first videos. I remember like staying up nights on end editing and recording. And I remember because my cousin was in my room while I was editing and recording, and I was like not embarrassed about it. I was like, I'm proud of this video. I'm gonna make this video. And it was my Kazur and Ukima deck list, and we're gonna be talking about Ukima right now. Ukima the Stalking Shadow is 1 a blue and a black for a 2/2 that can't be blocked. And when it leaves the battlefield, it deals X damage to target player, and you gain X life, where X is its power. First things fucking first. Arna. Why didn't I put this in Arna? I'm pretty sure I have this still sitting somewhere. No, my brother has this. You have my Ukima, and I'm getting it back. My whole Arna deck is about playing tokens or small evasive creatures that we then throw 1/1 counters on and start doubling those 1/1 counters. Not only does this check the box of small and evasive creature, it will shoot someone for an insane amount of damage for leaving. So it doesn't matter if you exile it, if you bounce it, if you destroy it. I don't care what you do, other guy. You're gonna take however big Ukima is to the face. And in certain decks, like my Arna deck, this will easily become so big that, like, honestly, no opponent's gonna want to deal with it, because if they do, they're gonna be the one that gets shot for like 20 plus damage. And if they don't, though, it's unblockable. So you're all gonna get hit for 20 damage, and it'll get bigger. And in Arna, it'll just double. Even if you're not in Arna, just pair this with something like Blade of the Blood Chief. Whenever a creature dies, give equipped creature a +1/+1 counter, and it's a vampire. Yeah, over the course of probably 2 or 3 turns in a game of Casual Commander, your Ukima will be double digits. And that's an unblockable double digit that if it leaves will deal its double digit to anybody. So yeah, again, game ender, kind of implied with that. Okay, this next one, game ender, heavily not implied. So let me sell you this one, especially because it's a Fallout card. I personally won't run it. I'm not a big fan of certain Universe Beyond stuff, but hey, does the owner of the coffee shop that only likes espresso not sell a cold brew? Mr. Gutsy is a 2-drop 1/1 artifact creature. Whenever you cast an aura or equipment spell, put a 1/1 counter on Mr. Gutsy. When Mr. Gutsy dies, create X junk tokens, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on it. They're artifacts with tap, sacrifice this artifact, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until the end of turn. Activate as a sorcery. Will this thing end a game on its own? Maybe. I think like in an equipment or aura deck, Mr. Gutsy could get pretty fucking big, just from you playing the deck and then just smack people in the face. That's not a good enough answer though. This is where my definition at the beginning of the video comes into play, my little second definition of if it can set up a board state where the right deck can like swoop in on that board state and potentially end a game. I think that's where this is really good, because when you think about all the ways you could just force counters onto this thing with cards like Halana and Elena or Fangs of Colonia, I think this thing could easily be sacked to cards like Grinding Station to make a shit ton of artifacts when it dies, to then feed into something like Dragon Spark Reactor to get a ton of counters on Dragon Spark, sack it to deal a ton of damage to any player, or just use those junk tokens for the Grinding Station, or use those large amount of junk tokens for any of your infinite artifact synergies, your Marionette Masters, your Marionette's Apprentice, your Grinding Stations, and go nuts. I think it's gonna give you quite a bit. The fact that you have to dump an aura or an equipment to get it to happen may seem bad, but then you've got auras like Silk. Not getting the name, it's gonna be on screen though. 1 green aura gives something like O2 and reach or something like that, but you can pay a green to bounce it back to your hand. Then this starts to become like, oh, is this what synergy is? Wait. But I'll be the first to admit, this is the worst one on the list. This one don't fight me in the comments, I will lose. You'll be like, how is Mr. Gutsy a fucking game ender? He's a special little robot, he's a game ender. A better answer would probably be, it can set up board states that will win you games or make you winning the game much easier for you. And I did not have another video to put this in because I really don't want to just talk about it in like an obscure deck video. I wanted to talk about why I think it's good. This felt like the perfect video. I get off my back. I'm trying to relax, all right? We're back on track though. Next we got Scouring Swarm, being 1 a black and a green for a 1/1 flying. Create a tapped token that's a copy of this creature if 7 or more lands are in your graveyard. Otherwise, create a tapped 1/1 black insect creature token with flying. Yeah, it's a Scoot Swarm, but for sacking lands that has flying. And they stay 1/1s, which might seem worse, but that means it interacts with stuff like Skull Clamp. So there's a win. There's a win right there. This is very, very good. You're in a Lands Matter deck, like you're in Lord Windgrace.
You're running the fetch lands. You're running the lands that sack to blow up other people's stuff like Wasteland. If you had $1 billion, but us casual players, we still got the options. You can run stuff like Terramorphic Expanse, Evolving Wilds, the ones from Streets of New Capenna. I don't know the name. Yeah, massive board of 1/1 flyers. That'll end a game. You get 2 of these, the next time you crack a land, you have 4, and then you have 8, and then you have 16, and then you have 32. Exponential growth, baby. Real good way to win a game of Commander. Oh, I just thought about the Necro Bloom with this thing. Put it in your Necro Bloom deck, actually. Fuck Lord Windgrace, dude. Necro Bloom? Ew. Up next as a Reanimator player, I want to talk about the Cauldron of Eternity. For 10 and 2 black, we get a legendary artifact that costs 2 less for each creature card in your graveyard, so this thing will cost 2 if you've got 5 creatures in your graveyard. Oh, that's a pretty big ask for a Reanimator deck. Oh, I don't know how we're gonna do that. Whenever a creature you control dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library, pay 2 and a black, tap it, pay 2 life, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, activate only as a sorcery. Yeah, if you're in Reanimator and you're doing it right, this will be a 2 mana, pay 2 and a black, tap it whenever you want to recur whatever you want out of your graveyard, which if you don't play Reanimator, that's really good. And then the whole putting creatures on the bottom of your deck thing, sure, it is a debuff as opposed to being able to just put them back into your grave and recur them again. I'm not gonna say it isn't, but a lot of times in graveyard decks, you find yourself milling yourself pretty low and having a built-in way to just start putting stuff back into the bottom of your deck. Not bad. Now, where am I gonna recommend you put this commander-wise? Say it with me. Taval the Balance Scale. Yeah, all my commanders, dude. I'm selfish. All I bring up are my commanders. Taval the Balance Scale, it's putting stuff in your graveyard over and over again. If you're running it like me, it's just a pure reanimation, balls to the wall, get big stuff into play as quick as possible deck. Meaning that in that deck, turn 3, turn 4, we're getting a 2-drop that starts reanimating stuff for 3. And if you get 2 good hits from a Ripples of Undeath, you can get this thing out for 2 mana. Yeah. Next, we're going to talk about You Look Upon the Tarrasque. Or the Tarrasque, being 4 and a green for an instant. Choose one. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to you and creatures you control, or target creature gets +5/+5, gains indestructible until end of turn, and all creatures your opponents control able to block this creature must block this creature. Yeah, tokens. We're really focusing on the second ability here, if I'm being honest. Having all your opponent's stuff block one creature will make sure that every other creature gets through. So in a go wide deck, that's pretty insane. Even in a go tall deck, like if you're in a Voltron deck and you can get one other body in play and force the opponent's board to block that body and then get your whatever through, I could see that being pretty okay. It's also got the built-in bonus of being a fog. So if you need the fog, use the fog. It's also in green, so you could like use the fog effect, drop an Eternal Witness during your turn to get it back to use the other effect on your turn. I think it's pretty good. Definitely will end games sometimes. And then finally for our list today, we've got Sandstorm Salvager, being 2 and a green for a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, create a 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature token. You can pay 2, tap it, put a 1/1 counter on each creature token you control. They gain trample until end of turn. Sure. Let's think of something that's different than like Jetmir. Chatterfang. Put it in a Chatterfang. You get a 3/3 golem, comes out with a built-in 3/3 squirrel. You get 1/1 counters to all your tokens, which is gonna be a ton, and built-in trample for all your tokens. If giving your whole board a buff and evasion isn't a good way to end a game, I've been playing the game all wrong. I could even see this being pretty good in like a blink deck, like something as simple as like Ruin the Hidden Realm, blinking this 2, 3, 4 times along with some like cloud shifts or like Conjurer's Closets and stuff like that, getting that many 3/3 golems and then starting to put 1/1 counters on all of them and trample. That seems also like it could end games outside of just being in a token deck. If you like this video, let me know down in the comments. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that bell icon if you haven't already. Drop some of your favorite underplayed ways to bring home games down in the comments. And again, if you want to show some additional support to the channel, it starts as low as $1 a month over on Patreon or here on YouTube under the YouTube members tab. Either one seriously does help me out a ton. As always, I appreciate you guys' support on the most recent videos. I will see you guys on Sunday and have a good one. Peace.